jogando Little Nightmares agora. Opa! Live aqui no Twitch. Recebi a notificação do YouTube. Opa, estamos ao vivo já, sim?
Opa, estamos ao vivo, os gloriosos amigos do Hardcore Pixel. Bem-vindos a mais um... A mais um nada, a um BLIZZCON 2021.
Não tá saindo o áudio do vídeo.
Eu acho que ele tá muito baixinho. Deixa eu aumentar, fica aí ouvindo.
Não tô ouvindo nada. Lembra que tem um delayzinho, hein?
Tá, pera aí, eu vou aumentar lá, Vê aí.
Calma, a gente tá falando que tá ao vivo ainda. Se tiver alguém no chat aí que quiser dar dica pra gente, se vocês já estão ouvindo bem e tal, também. Opa. Agora tô ouvindo bem baixinho. Pera aí. Tô ouvindo agora, mas eu acho que...
Aumento
É
mais?
difícil saber se essa música tá muito alta ou não, não sei.
Eu vou aumentar um pouco e a gente vai começar a conversar coisas aleatórias pra ver o som. A música agora está mais alta, Rafa. Será que ficou bom pra gente escutar? Eu estou aqui enumerando qualquer coisa que vier na minha mente pra gente ver se o volume tá bom do vídeo com o da voz, se dá pra entender. Diga aí, Rafa.
Oi, falando aqui. Eu fiquei na dúvida quando é tu que tá me falando mesmo ou se eu tô ouvindo. Daniel perguntou se é aqui o do Tomorrowland.
Pode ser?
Pronto, Daniel tá dizendo que o som tá bom, eu tô achando que tá bom também agora.
Boa. Valeu, Daniel. Pra quem não
Agora...
sabe, esse é o glorioso Holdor. Não é, Rafa?
Isso, de Game of Thrones. Ele é um DJ também. Agora o... A gente tá tentando fazer, pra quem também, Daniel, e pra galera que tá assistindo a gente tá tentando fazer stream junto no YouTube e no Twitch ao mesmo tempo. No Twitch não tá rolando.
Ih, por quê? Será?
Não sei, tá dizendo aqui só que a gente tá ao vivo, mas tá dizendo que um erro 1000. Vou tentar entrar numa aba anônima aqui,
Vai.
incognito, ver o que é que rola.
Eita, então o Holdor, famoso por fechar portas, está abrindo o evento. É isso mesmo, Rafa?
Ah, é o boato.
Ah, e pra quem não percebeu ainda, sextou, amigos!
Na verdade, ele segura portas, né? Ele não fecha.
Ah, mas ele segura pra manter fechada, pelo amor de Deus.
Segura fechada, é. Agora aqui, então, quando eu vejo o thumbnail do Twitch da gente, parece que tá rolando e quando eu clico aparece esse erro maldito.
E fica
Isso.
temperando as ondas sonoras. Tá na hora, hein?
Me lembra-
40 segundos, bora, Daniel, chega em casa, Daniel, pelo amor de Deus.
Oh, o coraçãozinho dele.
É um fofo.
Mas que
sempre
homem.
foi, sempre foi.
Me carregue nas costas.
20 segundos. Barulho de 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Tá dando erro no Twitch, então dane-se, né? Vamos ficar aqui no YouTube mesmo. Opa, começou, hein?
Começou. Eu acho que não é Diablo, hein?
Eu vi uma diva ali no fundo.
Opa, muitas fotos de cachorro. Teremos um herói dog.
E teve o bichinho de Hearthstone.
Daniel tá dizendo curtiria tranquilo um festival som de DJ Holdor.
Nesse canal a gente não gosta de quem joga com Mei, hein?
Não gosta de quê?
Que joga no Overwatch com Mei.
Well, I will tell you that all of my family play video games.
Me and my brothers, we would share the computer 1 hour at a time.
저는 제 와이프랑 게임을 가장 많이 해요.
I'm really enjoying playing video games with my dad.
My children.
My little sister. That connection between
É.
video games allowing
Falando
us to
de
converse with
conexões
each
de
other,
videogames, com
adding a
parentes,
lot
com
to our
amigos, não sei o que. Vai jogar Diablo com sua vovó, meu amigo, vai dar certinho.
I probably never would have.
I can honestly say I met some of my best friends through playing games.
We have this connection that allows us
Ah, meu
to
Deus.
share our joys, to share our achievements, to
Derramei aqui na mesa.
share together.
Every time I'm able to achieve something, I'm able to make myself proud.
Killing heroic Black Hand.
É um videozinho basicamente dando
Aquele vídeo motivacional, aquela energia lá em cima.
isso, dizendo os videogames.
Videogames, aí vai mostrar o Capeta 4 destruindo tudo, quebrando todo esse, esse momento bonito.
Ou
da
então vai
família.
aparecer Projota aí cantando videogames.
Não,
videogames.
para.
Warlock as a little gnome holy priest, freaking out and screaming the whole time.
Adrenaline through my body was going crazy.
Pela caminhada ter sido tão prazerosa e pela conquista ter vindo.
A gente se sentiu muito.
Português. Português. Fala em inglês até.
I killed the Lich King! I killed the Lich King!
然后夺冠的时候，
Deram spoiler, rapaz.
包括有些男的工作人员，他们都哭了。
Many years ago, I was doing a quest in Terracar Forest, and a lovely little mage came up and said, "Would you like a hand?" They helped me for the rest of the day. We've been married now for over a decade.
Meu Deus, ela se casou com um tiozão no WoW.
Não, se casou na vida real com um cara que conheceu no WoW.
Você entendeu? Quem nunca?
Casamento MMO não dura.
Quem nunca, não é?
But video games were my escape. When I was a teenager, my dad was diagnosed with ALS, and I looked to video games as a way to escape from that sort of reality.
Ah, CGs da Blizzard são demais, né, bicho?
And I'm just glad video games were there for me.
I'll never stop playing video games.
There's no way.
I imagine myself one day being an 80-year-old grandpa gamer.
Playing video games has shaped me. I don't think I would be who I am today.
A não ser que vocês consigam e tenham vertigo, aí tem que parar de jogar videogame.
Ela se amarra numa cadeira, né, rapaz?
And because of that, I'm thankful.
And I can't wait to see what the next
Trazendo a falsa ideia de segurança. De nada.
Tu tá um pouquinho mais na frente aí, ó, pra não dar spoiler.
O que foi que eu falei?
De nada. Aí depois apareceu o Thank You aqui.
Tá, eu vou contar até 5 antes de comentar algo. Obrigado por comprar Warcraft 3 Forge. Reforged.
Me desculpa. Desculpa qualquer coisa.
Bela abertura, hein? Arrepiei aqui umas 3 vezes.
Sim, sim.
Welcome to BLIZZCON Line.
Obrigado.
A celebration
Belo palco.
of 30 years
Belo
of
palco.
Blizzard communities and 30 years of Blizzard games.
30
30
anos
years is
de Blizzard
so many years.
esse ano.
And last year maybe felt like one of the longest of all. But throughout the years of Blizzard Entertainment, from 1991 to today, many of us can associate
Bela camisa
certain
também.
games with milestones in our lives. Maybe you were a little kid.
Acho que tá vazando teu som, hein?
The Lost Vikings.
Eu ouvi o maybe do teu microfone antes dele falar o maybe aqui.
Fazer, Brasil.
Diablo game.
Tenta fazer assim, ó. Ou abaixar o
baixei,
vídeo, talvez um
baixei.
pouquinho aí.
Playing World of Warcraft. That's the awesome thing about video games. They give us experiences that are relevant.
Videogame.
É, eu acho que a primeira coisa que eu joguei da Blizzard foi Blackthorn. Deixa eu ver quando é Blackthorn aqui. Jogaço! Jogaço! Também vinha nesses CDs com 100 jogos. 1994, rapaz. Dá pra tu? No PC.
Are coming home. Familiar, comfortable, with a connection and a sense of belonging.
Eu confesso que eu fico meio emocionado quando o povo tá falando tão bonito assim de jogo. Eu fico mesmo.
Daniel tá dizendo, se chorei ou se sorri, obrigado Blizzard pelas emoções que eu vivi.
Exatamente, Daniel. Estou aqui prestes a passar vergonha. Eu realmente fico sentido com esses discursos de tiozões sobre videogame. Vixe Maria. E mostrando aqui, estamos com a horda no peito.
Or my favorite faction, the Horde. I
Foi
get
só
confused.
falar a ordem que ele falou na Alliance.
Usually, I'd be speaking to 40,000 of you in person at the Anaheim Convention Center, and millions of you around.
Povo, tá bom o som aí? Daniel, tá bom o som do vídeo? Ou tá muito baixo e
That
tal?
would be a perfect way to celebrate.
Só falar, tá? Que a gente dá uns tweaks aqui.
But nothing about the last year has been usual. The pandemic has been hard on everyone, and for many different reasons. But if there's one thing that the last year has taught us, it's that being apart physically doesn't stop us from moving forward. It doesn't stop
Eu já tô
us
cansado dessas
from
conversas
connecting with our player friends.
de empresa falando.
Diving
Ah,
in
esse último ano foi
with
muito
leaders and
difícil.
healers.
Mas aprendemos muitas coisas, meu irmão. Tá bom, vamos esquecer, passou, vamos partir pra cima.
Eu só acho que eles têm que botar mais um dado aí. Foi muito difícil, aprender muitas coisas, é verdade. E lucramos bastante também, porque a gente já viu que todo mundo lucrou bastante
Games continue
nos videogames. Salva Konami. Ah não, a Konami também. Eu sempre falo isso. Salva Konami, aí eu me lembro que eles lançaram o jogo de celular.
I wasn't sure how well Blizzard could work from home. There are thousands of people, all needing to work together in creating our universes, games, and experiences. Never has it felt more true that it takes a Blizzard to make a Blizzard game. And in 2020, it became clear.
O povo que tá chegando agora acabou de começar, hein? Ainda tá no vídeo motivacional.
Isso.
Dos 30
Exatamente.
anos
Isso
da
é o
Blizzard.
começo do começo.
And I continue to be so proud of each and every one of them. Thank you, Blizzard. We create these games and pour all
O
of
Daniel
our
tá assistindo pelo
energy,
celular, o
heart,
som tá
and fun.
ótimo, o do evento e da
But it is
gente.
you,
O da gente tá
Blizzard
sobressaindo do
community,
evento. Show,
that
perfeito,
brings
valeu,
it to
Daniel.
life. And that's why BlizzCon Line is a celebration of you. The Guild
Se você puder
Wars,
pedir uma segunda opção
Healers,
também do rapaz do Uber aí que tá
DPS,
dirigindo, também é
tanks,
bom. É sempre bom ter mais de uma opinião, né?
Innkeepers,
Tô brincando, pelo amor de Deus.
Terran, Protoss, Blackwatch, Shimada, the heroes of Sanctuary and of the Storm. These next few days are for you, our Blizzard community. For World of Warcraft, we'll be showing you what's next for both Shadowlands and Classic.
Opa,
I'm sure
rumores
you're
do
all
Burning Crusade, hein?
burning in anticipation for that one. Hearthstone.
Ah,
Belo trocadilho. Rafa, nosso correspondente, por favor, traduz o trocadilho.
We also have
eu quero ouvir, peraí.
Diablo community.
Opa,
Some of you were able to dip your toes
não tem número, hein?
into the depths of hell in the Diablo Immortal Technical Alpha. I personally
Será que
really
vão liberar
enjoyed seeing
a demo
players
do celular
embrace
hoje?
the multiplayer aspect of meeting in town. We can't wait for more of you to get your hands on it. So, it's only the beginning of the year, and already there is so much to look forward to, even though we can't yet be together in person. The Overwatch League will be kicking things off in spring, and we'll be watching closely to see if the San Francisco
Overwatch, que
Shock
Deus o tenha, né? Abandonado por causa do 2. Vai fazer o quê? 2 anos quase que não tem um herói? Saiu um ano passado, né?
Esports is back.
Não lembro, não sei, não tô acompanhando. Eu assisto o Overwatch League só.
Eu acho que saiu um em março e agora não sai mais, até o 2 próximo ano. Março do ano passado, claro.
StarCraft 2 and Warcraft 3 esports are going strong with our friends.
Eu gosto de assistir o Overwatch League.
And qualifiers are already underway for the first online stop of the 2021 Hearthstone Masters Tour, with the first event taking place next
Gosto de assistir também a Copa do Mundo de Hearthstone.
Before we get too far ahead, let's take a look one last time. Twin times were a little simpler. In the early 1990s, the internet was a baby. CD sales had finally
Viagem no tempo agora.
Eita, Daniel tá dizendo aqui, ainda estou no trabalho, o temporal aqui no Rio derrubou a internet, estou fechando relatórios e acompanhando você. Eita, Daniel, tá quase sextando, fé, fé. Já já vai dar bom.
Sega Genesis, DOS, or Mac PCs. I personally was a master of config sys and auto-exec bat. So many simple things in simple times. If only we could relive them.
Eita, vem alguma coisa aí, hein?
Vem, vem. Vem,
Packzinho
olha.
arcade. Meu Deus, vai ter só porque eu falei no Blackthorn. Anota aí. Coisa boa, rapaz. Olha ali, Blackthorn na Mind. Arcade Collection, vamos ver.
Blizzard Arcade Collection,
Blackthorn,
rapaz.
meu amigo. Rock'n'Roll Racing. O Lost Vikings eu nunca joguei. Vikings, né? Mas fala muito direitinho.
Sim, Lost Vikings.
Rock'n'Roll Racing já brinquei. Blackthorn joguei demais, bom demais. Plataforminha. Só estranho ele pra pular dava muita raiva, meu Deus do céu. New features, Story 1, Save, Launch, Filters. Ah, esse rewind aí é golpe, hein? É tiro.
É golpe.
É golpe.
Ah, traduções.
Olha só. Criação de mapa pro Blackthorn.
Massa. Split screen.
Bom demais. Blackthorn é um caba, 1 a 12 e orcs, Rafa. Tu quer mais o quê?
Tocando Deep Purple no fundo, é?
Não reconheci. Xbox One, PS4, PC.
Switch.
Massa. Curti, adorei.
Muito show.
Rock'n'Roll Racing and Blackthorn. These are ports of the games just as you remember them, allowing you to relive the original experience of all three titles in 13 different languages. With a couple of quality of
Meu
life
irmão,
upgrades.
que braço é esse do cara de Blackthorn?
É massa. Eu sempre achei o Brutal Legend, o com Jack Black, o jogo com Jack Black, muito. O visual muito inspirado em Blackthorn.
Blackthorn.
And for those of you who purchased any Blizzard Digital Anniversary Bundle via Battle.net, you'll automatically receive the Blizzard Arcade Collection
Olha que legal.
on PC today.
Que legal.
Se você comprar qualquer
Disponível.
bundle no Battle.net, você ganha esse arcade de graça.
Massa, massa. Aquele Viking ali com a camisa apertada representa, hein?
World of Warcraft agora, hein?
Vamos lá. Tá ruim de CG, né? O World of Warcraft. Tá mal de CG.
Como é que não tem uma série ainda?
Pois é, bicho. Pelo amor de Deus.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. No matter where you are, World of Warcraft unites us all. Whether you're exploring the Shadowlands,
É, só tem Warcraft escrito ali.
or another part of the Blizzard
Eu quero ver o Warcraft 3 Reforged 2.
because we've got a lot of good stuff to show you.
Bela camisa, que
Reforged.
estilo. Esse tiozão na noite faz sucesso, viu? Chega já com seu Guto Folder.
No filme, Al Pacino vai ser ele.
Aí você é mesmo.
Necrologs to war! Vinta? Let's party!
Isso são tipo as factions que tem no Shadowlands agora. Você tem que escolher uma das factions, além de Ordem e Aliança.
Massa.
Everyone going on the WoW team has been connecting with all of you. The bonds we forge with our guilds and family and friends in WoW are powerful and real.
Eita, 2 anos atrás a gente tinha Destiny também na BLIZZCON.
And Blizzard celebrates its 30th anniversary. We're so grateful to have the most dedicated.
Nobres amigos assistindo, muito bem-vindos. Quem chegou agora, dê um oi aí no chat, pra gente saber de quem a gente pode falar mal ou não.
In WoW Classic, we fought an endless battle for South Shore and Tauren Mill. We banded together to open the gates of Ahn'Qiraj and
Anubis.
joined forces to take down Kel'Thuzad in his floating citadel of Naxxramas. In Shadowlands, we helped our covenant recover from the Anima drought, brought on by Sire Denathrius, master of the Vinthier.
Mas eu acho que vem, Rafa, a série, uma série tunada ainda vem. Tá com uma avalanche de coisa de videogame, né? A Netflix pegando,
Sim,
filme,
sim.
não sei o que. Eu acho que já começam a pegar, porque são
Até
coisas...
Dota vai ter um anime.
É, eu acho que já eles pegam coisa pra ficar mais sério mesmo, assim, sabe? Um Warcraft, o Glorious Destiny mesmo, que nem disse. Entre outras mil coisas. O Mass Effect.
He's preparing to break free from the Maw and complete his plan to unmake the entire Warcraft universe. And Sylvanas, you may be wondering what she's been up to all this time. Today, we're excited to unveil our first major content update for Shadowlands, Chains of Domination.
Eita, não é o nome do segundo 50 Tons de Cinza, né? Chains of Domination?
Não faço a mínima ideia. Mas você saberia, né?
Eu não, só tô usando. Daniel tá dizendo aqui, assistir essas CGs da Blizzard automaticamente vem um gif de LaBuff batendo palmas, é mesmo. É verdade, Daniel. As da Blizzard e as da Square Enix são outro nível completamente. Eu gosto muito das CGs da Coalition também. Os guias 4 e 5 eu acho mais ou menos, os dois. O 5 é melhorzinho, mas as CGs eu acho espetaculares.
Adoro o lore de World of Warcraft.
Demais, né?
The Primus is lost, and Bastion cannot save the Shadowlands alone.
None of this should have happened.
Perhaps the Winter Queen could.
Bom, se você tiver no mudo sem saber que é Warcraft, você acha que é Diablo isso aí, né? Os anjinhos e tal.
A mortal,
a king. By all our measures, one who has spent his life striving for justice. One who would give anything to
Mas eles não quiseram passar muito tempo fazendo...
Eita!
One whose heart is true.
Very well. He may approach.
Glorioso Uther. Uther. Fala aí, Rafa, bonito.
Uther Lightbringer.
Uther Lightbringer.
My ascended have spoken of you. The king.
Em que em alguns lugares pode ser simplesmente o cara da Selp, né? O cara da companhia de energia, o que traz a luz.
Why have you come to Bastion?
You have a key that I need.
You will release this soul from your grasp.
No. He is bound to me, just as you sought to bind your own brother.
Meu amigo.
Opa!
Ele não para de criar, né? Arthas não para de causar.
Meu irmão, essa nova armadura tá demais, hein?
The vessel performed its part flawlessly. 3 keys remain. Then they will see. Death was never meant.
Impressionante como você consegue pegar o que Sylvana estava pensando ali só com o olhar dela, né? Assim, numa animação, muito bem feito, velho.
O que é que ela
muito
tava
bem
pensando,
feito mesmo.
Rafa? Eu não peguei, não.
Tu não viu isso não? Ela dá uma olhadinha assim, tipo um franze, como quem diz, irmão, não sei se eu tô fazendo a coisa certa não.
Vai dar ruim, né? E falando em coisa certa, alguém está dizendo uma frase corretíssima ali, glorioso Thiago Benevides, conhecido como Bolinha, conhecido como Orfeu, nosso insider da Apple, está ali com a gloriosa Fresh Meat. Em breve, veremos.
Next, I'm excited to share our upcoming World of Warcraft charity pet program.
Warcraft Classic agora. WoW Classic.
Vamos lá.
And the opportunity to give to a good cause, along with ideas to
Pets.
make the program even better. So during this upcoming campaign, you'll be able to
Que massa.
donate whatever amount you wish to directly support our chosen charity. Once donations reach our goal,
Então, o Butcher, o que fala Fresh Meat, é do Diablo 1, né? No Diablo 2 tem um que é tipo um Butcher meio amarelo, né? Eu lembro que eu quase infarto a primeira vez que eu vi. Como é o nome do danado? Deixa eu procurar aqui. Ele tem uma frasezinha também. The Smith, isso mesmo. Qual é a frase do Smith?
Massa, e se você doar pra caridade, eles vão lhe dar Tipo, se conseguirem chegar a um tão gold todo mundo doando pra caridade, eles vão liberar uns pets no World of Warcraft.
Ah, esse aí inspirado...
Esse macaquinho simpático.
Inspirado no príncipe... Arambe.
Your donations during this campaign will go to support the medical humanitarian organization Doctors Without Borders. Also known by their French name.
Não são os pets mais bonitos do mundo, né? Mas você não anda com ele dado a mão no shopping, mas tudo bem. Oh meu Deus, qual é a frase do Smith?
And we hope you'll help support this worthy cause. We'll be sharing the details about the charity pet program on the World of Warcraft website soon. So we've talked quite a bit about Shadowlands. Classic players, now it's your turn.
É hoje que
tá vazando bem muito teu som agora, viu?
Nossa, tá muito baixinho aqui. Baixei mais.
Tipo, vê se é o microfone, a posição do microfone.
Glorioso.
Não abaixa.
Glorioso. Eu baixei no meu fone.
Ah, tá.
Glorioso Campos pergunta se é hoje que vão lançar Age of Empires. Eu acho que não.
No WoW
Deus,
Classic,
apareceu uma mulher do nada.
eu tenho um Undead Mage. Eu toco terror em Ogrimmar.
Eu vou baixar esse fim de semana o Classic. Me indignei aqui. Vamos só ouvir J.K. Rowling falando aí. J.K. não, né? J.K.
Juscelino Kubitschek.
And I thought, well, I guess I'll check out that beta. And sure, we all call the game WoW. But really, wow. I could not believe I got bit by the MMO bug again. I was so excited to be able to make a Night Elf Hunter and be like that famous Dark Elf Ranger from the books that I loved. I have to tell you, Azeroth was, and still is, a place I love to live. Since last year, I've had the great honor to work alongside the WoW Classic team to bring these nostalgic experiences back to life for longtime fans and a whole new generation of players. As a fan myself, I've had so much fun in WoW.
Pra quem não sabe, até no WoW Classic, eles até deixaram alguns bugs da época mesmo, pra ser, tipo, como era o jogo na época mesmo. Tá ligado?
Experiência, replay mesmo.
Recolocaram os bugs.
Faltou sabe o que, né, Rafa? Snacks. Bug snacks.
And that's the thing about WoW. These stories and experiences we all share keep us coming back time after time. With that said, I'm super excited to be able to share with you where our adventures are taking us next.
Olha lá. Quem vem? Prepare. Anitta?
Vai vir queimando.
Anitta? DLC de Anitta? Burning Crusade. Burning Crusade.
A trilha sonora é muito boa. Aí.
Your foolishness has brought you to this end. Take my blood and choke on it.
Death to the outsiders.
I'll turn your world upside down.
You are not prepared.
E quando? Sem data ainda certinha, mas
Esse ano só. Sem data fechada.
Menino
Brings
Illida.
back so many memories, right? Like exploring the fungal forests of Zangarmarsh, or being awestruck at the chaotic magic alive in Netherstorm, the Draenei in Exodar, the Blood Elves in Silvermoon. I love playing them both. Do you choose to enlist the Aldor or the Scryers in your quest to fight the Legion? And of course, we can't forget gathering all your friends to fight Illidan at the top of the Black Temple. I can't wait to relive it all with you. Since the team first set out on
Spoiler aí, né?
quest to bring the original WoW back to life, we have learned a ton about what players are expecting from this kind of experience. We've also learned when to keep things just as they were, and where we all might be open to some changes. We're bringing all these lessons with our primary goal to bring back the same feeling you had when you faced the Fell Reaver for the first time, or when you were digging through piles of Fellhound poop. Of course, we can't get this right without you, our incredible community. Soon you'll be able to revisit Outland yourself.
Burning Crusade, que foi a primeira expansão, né, do WoW, lançou em 2007, janeiro de 2007. E pra quem não tá acompanhando a saga de WoW mesmo, ele tá no Shadowlands, que nem a gente viu, tem uma expansão dentro da expansão, né, que é a Chains of Domination agora, só que eles relançaram, que nem Rafa falou, a experiência original do Classic, pra quem, tipo eu.
Eles lançaram 2 anos atrás, e aí, tipo, já soltaram algumas raids, e essa é a primeira expansão depois do Classic.
Que é pra quem, tipo eu, não gosta de pegar as coisas da metade pro fim. E quem queria mesmo reviver a experiência do começo, como era, que mudou muito.
Jacob está dizendo, Overwatch 1, por favor. Overwatch 2 é praticamente Overwatch com um pouquinho mais de conteúdo. E novos gráficos, que eu acho válido.
E
agora vamos pra Hearthstone, hein?
Viu Illidan e comparou a inspiração do design dele com o Baphomet.
Joguei muito Hearthstone já também, faz um tempo que eu não jogo, mas adoro.
O problema que tu disse é que tem uma hora que não tem como continuar na versão grátis, né? Tem que comprar paradinhas.
Tem, só que, tipo, bote, sabe, 15 horas, algo que eu poderia destravar com $10.
Nossa. Belíssimo painel aí atrás, né?
That saw more than 10 million matches on its first day. We also introduced our long-awaited achievement.
Caramba! Eles soltaram um novo modo de jogo e teve 10 milhões de partidas no primeiro dia desse novo modo que lançaram.
Nossa. Tem um modo história mesmo, né, o Hearthstone? Por mais quem acha que é
de vez em quando sai um forma história, só que tipo, pra destravar você precisa de moeda ou você pode pagar dinheiro. E aí você destrava cartas.
Entendi.
Mas assim, é modo história em jogo de cartas, sabe? O foco não é a história em si.
Mas é dentro do mundo de Warcraft, não é isso?
Isso. O nome do jogo é Hearthstone Heroes of Warcraft. É tanto que, tipo, você joga com Paladino, você vai jogar com Uther.
Ah, massa.
Você, tipo, a não ser que você compre heróis extras e tal, que tipo, o herói tem seu poder específico, cada herói.
Entendi.
Aí tem as classes, e cada classe é, tipo, se você jogar Warlock, você pode ser Illidan. Sei lá o nome.
There's never been a better time to get into Hearthstone. Here are 3 of Hearthstone's legendary dragons, reimagined to feel more up-to-date and competitive for modern Hearthstone.
Eles estão lançando, tipo, irmão, esse bicho é muito chato. Ah, que massa, você basicamente ganha ele.
Tu falou mal do bicho, tu embaçou, hein? A Blizzard está de olho.
Pera aí, vou e volto.
And finally, everyone's favorite black dragon, Deathwing. He's still as destructive as ever.
Deathwing.
But timed correctly, he won't leave you empty-handed. we'll also be launching a brand new format. Classic.
Ele tá dizendo que vai ter o ano do Griffin e todo mundo vai ganhar o core set, tipo as cartas básicas dessa expansão de graça, então é uma boa hora pra entrar no jogo, pra quem quiser. Tô com saudade, quem sabe eu não volte.
Olha aí.
Leroy! O Jenkins!
Que massa que tem um cara.
Ele grita isso mesmo quando você joga ele, tá ligado?
Mas é o áudio original, não?
Não, é um dublador. Leroy Jenkins!
Dá um resumo aí, Rafa, pra quem não sabe a história de Leroy.
É possível que... quem não conhece... Peraí, vamos assistir esse CG rapidinho.
É, CG meio PowerPoint, né?
É porque esse é o estilo da CG de Hearthstone. Meio animação. Ai, bateu saudade de jogar World of Warcraft. Eu já andei por aí também, ele é Ogrimmar. Ele tá falando Fus rodar?
Tá rolando uma música meio Disney ali de fundo. Uma vibe meio Rei Leão.
Nope. O que é que tu pedisse pra eu contar mesmo?
Leroy!
Assim, a galera tá jogando World of Warcraft, tava numa raid se preparando pra entrar numa sala, tava organizando tudo e tipo, tava uma confusão e aí o cara, enquanto eles estavam coordenando, o cara disse, sabe de uma coisa, eu vou entrar. Aí gritou o nome do personagem dele, né? Leroy Jenkins! E aí saiu correndo e entrou e morreu, claro, e deu ruim.
História maravilhosa. Soltem no YouTube,
que é
maravilhoso.
E aí, em homenagem a ele, fizeram essa carta, que o engraçado é, quando ele entra, tipo, você não pode atacar quando você entra num jogo de carta, desse jogo. E aí, quando ele entra, ele já pode atacar direto. Ele entra gritando, Leroy Jenkins!
Herói.
That embodies the honor, loyalty, and spirituality of the Horde. Shadowhunter Vol'jin. Shadowhunter Vol'jin is a neutral legend that allows you to either bolster
Quando tem esse dragão em cima é uma carta lendária. Tá vendo na moldura?
And to celebrate the announcement of Forged in the Barrens, this card is available for free for everyone later today. So log into Hearthstone.
Todo mundo vai ganhar essa carta hoje.
Of Shadowhunter Vol'jin. And as a bonus, we're also giving away.
Então, sabe o que tá me incomodando? Tem uma Chromatic Aberration nas cartas. Que coisa chata.
We have another hero of the Horde who is making his first appearance in Hearthstone.
Oh.
The legendary Blade
Opa,
Master,
quem é que tá aparecendo?
featuring
Blade Master
the new
Summon.
keyword Frenzy.
Frenzy.
Is the first time a
Essa é
minion
nova.
takes damage and survives. In Samuro's case, this can be used to clear your opponent's board. Heroes of the Horde, like some, are famous for their combat prowess. But others, like
Frenzy é novo, não tinha antes.
powerful elemental magic. Take a look at this new shaman spell, Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning is a spell in a new cycle of cards that rank up and become more powerful when you have 5 and 10 mana, ensuring that they're always useful at every stage.
Mas quando você tem 5 mana, ele fica rank 2. Quando você tem 10 mana, ele fica rank 3. Ele vai ficando mais forte quanto mais mana você tiver. Ou seja, quanto mais tempo depois no jogo. Que você começa o jogo com 1 mana e vai ganhando a cada rodada. Mais uma.
Entendi.
New strategies. And don't worry, members of the Alliance will be featuring some of your most beloved heroes and locales later this year. But
Mas aí eu travasse.
Tô aqui.
Desse uma travada pra mim.
Amazing characters. And our final announcement is our most ambitious addition to Hearthstone yet.
Opa.
It introduces a brand new way to play with your favorite heroes. Hearthstone Mercenaries. Mercenaries features strategic RPG games.
Novo modo de jogo chamado Mercenaries.
Consisting of some of the most iconic
Ele disse gameplay RPG.
including timeless characters like the infamous Sylvanas Windrunner and Ragnaros, the elemental lord of fire. You can also
Ragnaros,
see some of
the
Hearthstone's
Fire
fan
Lord.
favorites, like the unstoppable Devil Saw, King Crush, and the ever-growing Gruul the Dragon Slayer.
Então, é comum ter essas versões mais lights que vão evoluindo das cartas?
where the map is
Isso não são cartas, ele tá contando esse novo modo aí.
Ah, tá.
Aí.
Each node represents a unique challenge for your team to take on. Your heroes gain levels, new abilities, equipment, and can even
Você tipo monta seu time, e aí você vai upando seus heróis e vai ganhando novas habilidades. E aí eles evoluem pra... Tipo, é um novo modo de jogo, um estilinho RPG.
and we'll have more to share with you down the road.
Esse ano sai ainda.
It's just a taste of what's coming in the year of the Griffin. So don't forget to tune in to our deep dive panel after the opening ceremony, where we'll share more details on the core set, the new classic format, Forged in the Barrens, and our plans for Battlegrounds and Duels, as well as our upcoming single-player content. I want to thank the team for their amazing work. And on behalf of
Eles tentam fazer um conteúdo single player também.
Aí é ótimo. Aí me interessa bastante.
your dedication and support is what drives us to make
Jogar jogo de carta single player, pelo amor de Deus, né? Te interessar isso.
fun ideas.
Interessa,
O que
ué.
interessa é o competitivo. O jogo de carta, jogar sozinho.
Ah, não. Se tiver um modinho história legal, dentro de Warcraft, me interessa bastante. Não, tanto quanto Chun-Li em Mortal Kombat. Tu viu o rolo do negócio ontem?
Vi.
Opa!
O Diablo aí agora.
Opa, chamem as vovós! El Capeta 4. Uia! Meu irmão, a galera se teletransporta aí no palco, quando ele sai numa carreira. Eu queria ver ele saindo correndo.
And I am honored to be here on behalf of all of our Diablo teams to share the news and updates we have in store for you today.
We've got a lot of Diablo to cover, and I hope you'll agree with me that it's a great time to be a member of this community.
Ele é o irmão de Luiz Costa? Entendesse? Ou tu não tava olhando?
Tô olhando.
Tá, viu o nome dele?
Vi, mas não peguei a piada.
Ai, 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 eu preciso de outro companheiro.
Olha que
cara
bela
Luiz
arte.
Barriga.
Que bela arte. Uau. Uau. Daniel tá dizendo que a gente tá lindo. Obrigado, Daniel. Valeu.
Eu acho que ele tava falando da minha piada. O nome do cara é Luiz Barriga. Eu falei irmão de Luiz Costa.
Eu entendi, eu só não achei engraçado.
Nada disso. Você não entendeu. Aí, tá rindo agora porque entendeu.
Mas ele tá mais pra Luiz Orelha. Opa. Mais uma classe.
A class is one of the most exciting things you can announce in a Diablo game.
Na verdade.
This one is especially exciting to me, as it's a re-envisioning of one of the first classes to ever appear in the series.
Opa, classe do primeiro jogo: Mago, Rogue ou Warrior. Warrior não tem ainda, né? Deve ser Rogue. Ah, que massa. Estão cantando uma Eliana aí, uma Xuxa, né? Pelo visto.
May he shepherd my soul.
May he shepherd my soul.
And grant it mercy.
And grant it mercy.
Ele já tá clarificando que foi pra... Isso tem cara de Rogue, hein? Quando chega assim por trás, no silêncio.
Olha aí, falando em orelha, Rafa. A gente falou em orelha agorinha, Rafa. Meu Deus! É, Daniel tá falando que era do diabo.
I strayed from your light.
Yoink.
And found my trade in the shadows.
É o Rogue, massa. Um Rogue meio Amazon, né? Um mix dos dois, Diablo 1 e Diablo 2. Barulho nojentíssimo. Nossa senhora! Ixi, Maria!
Literalmente fatiou e passou.
A Daniel tá ali. Ai, meu pacote de dados acabando porque botei em Full HD. Quando você se vacinar, Daniel, se for da China, você vai ter um chip 5G para poder navegar à vontade. Vai passar.
Notaram que ela tá na luz e ele tá no escuro?
Bem observado, Rafa.
Vai. Não saberemos nunca qual o nome que ele disse.
Eita, ela não tem orelha. Show, hein? Nossa senhora, olha isso, bicho. Meu bom Odin. Meu Deus, o jogo tá muito bonito, meu Deus, que coisa absurda. Lança logo. Só um mapinha pra gente jogar até lançar o jogo mesmo. Meu amigo, tá bonito demais. Não só o visual, mas a porradaria mesmo.
Sim.
Nossa senhora.
Ah, belo combo. Rogue é divertido demais. Eu adoro jogar como Rogue no Hearthstone, por exemplo.
E massa que ela tem várias magias de área, né? Pelo visto. Olha isso, bicho!
EOI também. Olha quanto EOI ela tem.
Muito bom demais. Controladora de área. Adorei. Tinha uns cenários ali muito legais. Tinha um cenário meio cinza. Com uma parada azul diferentão. Curti. Que geralmente fica naquela, né? Floresta, deserto, neve. Floresta, deserto. Ih, tiozão.
Porque todo padre que é meio ruim assim, eu fico pensando que é rolo.
Meu Deus do céu, tarado da orelha. É, esse padre, pelo visto, dá ouvidos demais. Animal.
Aí, ele falando, o som da orelha.
O som da orelha é nojentíssimo.
Imagina os caras fazendo o som, o Foley, né? Fazendo. Até sair nojento bastante.
We're excited to show you not just what the successors to the original rogues in the series have been up to since the fall of their order, but also what some of the other rogues in the world of Sanctuary might look like. The mantra for Diablo 4 has been customization first, and the rogue takes this to a whole new level. From the beginning,
customização primeiro.
Esse cara tem que se cuidar, viu? Porque a tarada da orelha ali, se vê ele na frente.
Tenho certeza que a galera do time dele faz piada pelas costas. Mas eu tenho certeza que ele escuta.
Olha. Uau, hein? Uau. Nossa, ficou muito que massa, porque eles estão... Tipo, é o Rogue, mas o gameplay ali lembra muito mais a Amazon do Diablo 2. Eu acho que é Amazon mesmo o nome. Lembra mais não, mas lembra bastante.
Sim.
E o visual ali tem umas skins que lembra muito o Demon Hunter. Aquele visual ali lembra muito o Demon Hunter do 3, né? Então é meio que um 3 em 1. Olha, Diablo Immortal.
Olha, ele deu uma dica, ele disse aquelas ouvidos não são só pra mostrar. Tem alguma história ali.
Deve ter que você, além de coletar as orelhas, coletar cotonetes.
Open Beta pra todo mundo que tá assistindo agora.
Tá, agora? Posso baixar agora? Entre o 2 e o 3, né? É isso?
Ó, entre Diablo 2 e 3.
Hoje, né?
Não. Hoje ele vai ter um painel dizendo o que é que eles aprenderam.
Olha o remaster!
Remake!
Arrepiei já.
Já chamar David Devrick aí.
Nossa
pra falar.
Senhora,
After all, some of our favorite moments happened a long time ago, and not just in Sanctuary years. If so, we have a special surprise for you today.
Surprise. Pra quem vê o save point não é surprise não, meu amigo. Eita, trailer. Vamos lá.
Mas tá só montando o título, hein? Tá só montando o título aí.
Yes. Olha, Tristan. Ixi, Maria, essa música. Eu joguei boa parte sem som, por causa de medo dessa música quando era menor. Aí o original, tá? Pelo amor de Deus, gente.
Sim, sim, sim.
É hora do choque. Vai! 280 mil pessoas assistindo a transmissão. Não, nossa. Meu Deus do céu!
Olha só!
Meu irmão, eles jogaram na engine do 3, no mínimo. Meu Deus, tá a coisa mais linda do universo. Meu Deus do céu, isso não é nem a engine do 3, isso é a engine do 4, Rafa.
E vai ser o Diablo 1 e 2 ou só o 2?
Não,
só o 2,
é só
né?
o 2, é só o 2. Eu acho que eles vão fazer o 2, eu acho que o 1 eles fazem um remake mesmo, sabe? Olha, console também, cross progression, ótimo. Dá pra jogar... Meu Deus do céu. Meu Deus, tá muito bonito. É a engine do 4, eu tenho certeza. Tem que pesquisar aqui depois que eles soltarem o post. Vulgo dos melhores jogos de todos os tempos. Nossa senhora.
Resurrected.
Sai esse ano, nice. Diablo.com pra assinar para o PC Tech Alpha. Tô indo agora.
Daniel tá dizendo, quero um box com todos, Diablo com tudo que vocês podem imaginar.
Always East. Diablo 2 is a landmark game for Blizzard.
Meu Deus, que coisa linda. Tá muito melhor do que eu pensava, bicho.
Full HD remaster of both the original game and the expansion Lord of Destruction. It takes the 2D sprite-based classic.
Inclui a expansão Lord of Destruction também, ele tá dizendo.
Show. É um jogaço, Rafa. Continua pouco tempo depois do 1, assim, diretamente. É animal. Eu tô aqui me cadastrando já no site. Não tô não, porque eu confundi. O ano que eu nasci eu botei 2020. Nossa senhora.
Tá falando de cutscenes também, melhorar as cutscenes e tudo, eles estão dizendo aí.
Now, it's funny to think that some of you weren't even born when D2 was released, which makes it all the more important that we deliver an authentic experience wherever you play.
Engraçado, o nome da... Já tá atualizado o site, inclusive em português. E o nome da Rogue, eu nunca pensei o nome da Rogue como Renegada. Tá, Renegada lá, né, em português.
Mas faz sentido. Faz todo sentido, na verdade.
Faz sentido. Ótimo isso.
And for those of you who are in love with the original and you just wish it worked more seamlessly on modern computers, you can bring back all of that nostalgia exactly as you remember and enjoy the game in its original 2D form, much like we did with StarCraft Remastered. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. Later today, Diablo speedrunner Mr. Llama will host a roundtable with members of the development team on the dedicated Diablo channel. If you are a Diablo 2 fan, I encourage you to take a look.
Ai, que animal.
So, from Diablo 2 Resurrected, to Burning Crusade Classic, to the Blizzard Arcade Collection, it's a whole lot of looking back.
Falaram nada de
And
Overwatch.
while we have teams dedicated to bringing these timeless experiences into your hands, it's actually a
É
very
porque não deve sair esse ano, aí eles não devem ter priorizado.
É, só próximo mesmo. Mas eu acho que vai mostrar sim. No
Não, vai ter o painel do Overwatch 2, mas eu tô
já,
dizendo nessa abertura aí.
talking about during the show. We can't wait to tell you even more about our plans over the course of this year and beyond.
Gente, vou soltar aqui no chat o link, hein, pra vocês do Alpha. Pra se inscrever. Só um minutinho.
Alpha pra PC, né?
É.
but it's really what those advances have enabled that's even more incredible. If you think about the people who play games and the communities that have grown up around them, the way people can connect instantly, no matter where they are in the world, the way people are increasingly able to express their identity and celebrate who they are through their favorite games, communities, and platforms. The explosion.
Daniel quer box com todos os Diablo, com tudo que vocês podem imaginar, Blizzard. Tem um amigo que tem uma...
Eu li esse comentário já.
Eu não vi, eu tava muito empolgado. Tem um amigo que tem um box especial do Diablo 3, Daniel, que é a coisa mais linda. Tá de parabéns a Blizzard, viu? O site super segurando, deve ter um mundo de gente aqui.
Just like the real world, the worlds of Warcraft, Diablo, Starcraft, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, and Hearthstone are diverse, expansive, and full of potential. We are not only iterating on the experiences that you've come to
Nossa senhora, tá muito melhor, Rafa, do que eu pensava.
We're also exploring different ways to express our worlds and welcome more players from more places into them.
Parabéns a Vicarious, hein?
É importante isso aí, controle de toxicidade, especialmente em jogo tipo Overwatch. Heroes of the Storm, por aí.
Inscrito, hein? Obrigado registrando seu interesse no Alpha Técnico Diablo 2. Ou compre na pré-venda agora mesmo. Vamos ver quanto é que tá.
O Diablo 2?
Tô vendo aqui, Olha, pancada, 180. Tum! Pancada, amigos. Mas... Nossa senhora, que coisa maravilhosa. Diablo 2 Resurrected agora nesse ano. E próximo ano, Diablo 4. Coisa linda. Comunidade Hardcore Pixel, vamos organizar uma maratona do 1 até a última expansão do 3, hein? Antes do 4.
Along with our core values, led by gameplay first, will continue to guide our way. So on behalf of everyone at Blizzard, thank you for being on this journey. For me personally, it is the honor of my professional life.
Então, agora eu tô na dúvida, Rafa, vão continuar nesse link ou se eles vão abrir outro. Acho que continua nesse.
Não, é nesse link.
É?
Sim, sim.
Ai, ótimo.
We are so excited for what's to come.
Vamos embora, hein, pô. Vão começar agora as mesas de tudo que foi mostrado aí. Ainda vai ter Overwatch, Starcraft.
Próximo vai ser um deep dive no What's Next. Aí, ele vai dizer agora. Ah, não. What's Next vai ser 6 e 5, 8 e 5 aí, né? Vai ser meia hora de What's Next de World of Warcraft, depois meia hora de What's Next de Diablo.
Ótimo.
Depois Behind the Scenes de Overwatch 2.
Vamos embora, vamos embora. E pelo visto, povo, já tem um monte de informação do Diablo 2, porque tô vendo aqui no YouTube já tem alguns vídeos que são tipo o trailer e entrevista com a galera da Blizzard, assim, então, Nossa senhora, tá muito melhor do que eu pensava que ia estar, bicho. Eu achei que ia ser uma parada tipo resolução, tá ligado? Ajeitar a interface, porque quando você bota em 4K o 2 hoje, fica as letrinhas desse tamanho.
Be good to one another. Welcome home. Before we kick things off,
Opa!
Here's a little something from a previous BlizzCon headliner.
Hã?
Hey, thanks for having us. Metallica. Thanks for having us at BlizzCon 2014.
Menino James.
Aí sim.
Love to be there this year, but obviously can't be.
Campos de Hat.
Belíssima guitarra, viu?
This is for you.
Sim.
Guitarrinha fosca é sempre positiva. Vamos tocar um supla? Será?
Vamos levar a Strike no YouTube.
Eita.
Dancinha de Strike.
É melhor tirar, né, a música agora?
Não, precisa não, deixa aí.
Depois
a gente tira, né?
Depois a gente tira, De vez em quando eu dou um mudo. E volto. A letra da música podia ser só assim, ó. Diablo 2, Diablo 2, Diablo 2. Diablo 2, Diablo 2. Daniel tá dizendo que trocou o celular, o autenticador não tá funcionando. Então, Daniel, quando eu fui colocar aqui, ele deu a opção de ser por celular ou por e-mail. Vê se tu consegue por e-mail.
Autentificador de quê? Ah, do Diablo 2?
Pra logar lá na Blizzard, já. Da Blizzard. E o que é legal? A do nuvem. Se você não quiser tomar uma porrada de uma vez só, no nuvem, você como pode pagar no PayPal, você pode parcelar gloriosamente. Maravilhoso. Então, se não quiser tomar a porrada aí de uma vez só, vai no nuvem, compra os gift cards e um abraço, divide em 10. Eu lembro uma vez que eu comprei... O que foi que eu comprei, meu Deus? Foi um jogo no nuvem mesmo, que o jogo era tipo... Sei lá, era 12 reais, 11 reais. Aí quando eu vi, eu não sabia que dava pra dividir lá. E eu botei pra pagar no PayPal, né, mais rápido. Aí...
Assim, vai rolar esse cartão aí
Carbo
de 5
Animations.
minutos.
Carbo Animations é animal. E aí eu... Tinha a opção de
Eu
dividir...
volto logo menos,
Vai,
enquanto tá contando essa história aí.
Vai, tinha a opção de dividir em 10 vezes. o jogo lá de R$11. Eu dividi só pelo desaforo. Meu irmão, a galera desse vídeo aí, povo, é a Carbo Animations. C-A-R-B-O-T Animations. Joguem no YouTube aí depois. Eles têm série de vários jogos da Blizzard e são geniais. Eles têm uma série de Diablo 1. Acho que são 6 episódios de 2 a 5 minutos cada episódio tem. E é tudo assim, tirando onda, mas resume perfeito o jogo, é maravilhoso. Olha o Warrior do Diablo 1 aí. Ele sempre tá morrendo no desenho.
Your death will. Morta Vespa Gaia Inu.
Tá, agora viu o Diablo 2. Já era. Warcraft. Denis está ali entoando cortes. E Daniel, vou vender uma cabeça de gado. Aí, meu irmão, esse Diablo 2 tá pancado aí, viu? 180, meu amigo. Vai. Vai valer. Deathwing.
Your time has come.
Deixa eu soltar aí pra vocês o link do Carbo Animations, que é mais fácil. Recomendo demais. Carbo Animations, vou mandar o link logo da parte da playlist. Aqui, ó. Voltando no chat em 3, 2, 1. Aí nesse link já tá as playlists, já tem o Diablo 2, Diablo 1, Warcraft e tal. Comecem pelo Diablo 1, que é bem curtinho. É muito bom.
Voltei.
E Rafa?
Aproveitei pra usar aquele belo banheiro.
Strange.
Greetings to you.
Ah, musiquinha de Hearthstone.
Uso.
Não vou mentir que eu terminou de baixar aqui Hearthstone agora. Deu vontade, deu saudade.
Boa, Rafa. Eu acho que a maior série deles é o Heroes of the Storm.
I'm getting good at this. I am in the groove. Turret online. Surprise! Piece of cake.
Junkrat. Piece of cake.
Overwatch 2 vai ter uma campanha, né, Rafa, pela primeira vez.
Hã?
Overwatch 2 vai ter uma campanha, né, pela primeira vez.
Vai ter conteúdo single player. Não sei se é uma campanha em si. Mas vai ter conteúdo single player. Eu ainda, tipo, eu quero ver essa parte de Overwatch. Começa às 9 horas da noite daí, a parada de Overwatch no canal principal. E aí eu quero ver aqui pra ver exatamente isso.
Blizzard Arcade. Deixa eu ver quanto é que tá. Não vi ainda. Gente, e o... botar também aí o link
Não,
do
vai
nuvem.
começar aqui agora, esse aí. World of Warcraft Burning Crusade Classic Deep Dive.
Boa, é a primeira mesa, povo. Então a gente tem agora Warcraft, depois é Diablo, né, Rafa?
Isso, depois Overwatch 2. E aí depois é Diablo de novo. Tipo, é Diablo What's Next, depois Overwatch 2, depois Diablo Deep Dive, que chama.
Vamos embora.
I'm the
JK está de volta.
for WoW Classic. A little bit about my background. I spent 13 years working on EverQuest. I started as a game
É que o nome dela
designer,
parece que foi
and
feito
eventually
num
became
tipo
the
aleatório
VP
generator
of
de
EverQuest.
nomes pra
That said,
pra fantasia.
I've
Holly
always
Longdale.
been a WoW player since beta.
Ela tem é o nome do personagem
So this is
dela.
obviously
Uther Lightbringer e Holly Longdale.
Não é aquela hora do Vingadores Guerra Infinita que o Doutor Estranho chega, my name is Stephen Strange. Aí o Homem-Aranha fala, pra gente usar os nomes artísticos.
Eu sou Homem-Aranha.
Essas camisas.
Essa camisa de boliche
Então,
de
isso que
World
eu
of
ia
Warcraft é
dizer.
muito show.
Galera, tem umas camisas de boliche ali, meu amigo. Camisa de tiozão do churrasco. Com todo respeito ao tiozão do churrasco, respeito total.
There's a lot to talk about today. So earlier we announced, yay, Burning
Belas
Crusade
xícaras,
Classic
hein?
is coming.
Ó, Rafa,
But there's a
vier
lot more
passar um
to
tempo
it. Let's take a look at the
aqui no
features,
BR,
because,
fica a
wow.
sugestão. Aquela camisa da Blizzard colorida e essa xícara, gostaria.
A camisa de boliche?
Não, de boliche não, aquela do tiozão emocionado lá.
And I will say my heart's with Alliance.
Eita, ela vai ser expulsa daí. Meu coração está com a aliança.
Ela é da aliança?
Supremacista branca. Tô brincando, povo, pelo amor de Deus.
Piada errada.
É uma piada, pô. Pela aí.
So I completely lost my time for weeks in there.
Não que eu possa falar muito, mas o que o Luiz Barriga tinha de orelha, essa J.K. Rowling tem de nariz, viu?
Olha aí, Kaká disse que Bitcoin tá me deixar comprar tudo.
Conhece. Bitcoin bateu os 300 mil reais hoje.
Se quiser investir, a gente abre ações aqui, tá, Kaká?
And just not understanding that class at all because my team didn't have it. So like I try to poly them and then be like grounding totem. I didn't know what that was. And it's just like, why are shaman immune to everything?
Eu lembro no Classic, primeira vez jogando WoW na vida, eu aqui matando uns fantasminha pra fazer minha quest, daqui a pouco passa assim ao longe 2 caras da Alliance. Aí eu meio que fiquei todo nervoso. Aí os caras chegaram perto de mim e ficaram tirando onda comigo, assim, os caras eram levels bem acima meu. E aí, tipo, eles ficaram só de olho assim em mim, e aí eu matando os fantasminhas lá como que eles não me notem. Aí um deles, tipo, soltou um spell em mim assim, só de me segurar. Aí eu, tá achando que eu vou alisar? Aí eu voltei e tomei um spell nele, tirou nada, né? E aí os dois deram um ataque e eu morri. Aí eu... Acontece.
So hey, I mean, you know, we were upset raiding like Razor Gore without Earthbind. I mean, it really evened the playing field for both PvE and PvP, which was kind of cool. But there were a ton of new features and just abilities with this too. You know, as we got to level 70 and got to experience new content and new things. I remember one of my first experiences with understanding what it meant for designed by Blizzard, right? Because I was an engineer, right? I wasn't a designer. I was working on like the live ops team at the time.
Só, Kaká, cuidado pra não perder a senha da carteira, viu? Aqui tava rolando a história do cara que tinha 50 milhões de dólares em Bitcoin e não sabia a senha e já tinha usado, acho que era 2 das 3.
Era.
Conseguia descobrir.
Era meio que tava num hard drive, né? Uma parada dessa e ele não conseguia desbloquear o próximo, ia zerar, ia tipo um negócio de segurança lá, ia apagar tudo. Meu Deus do céu, tá doido, bicho. Tem que fazer. Cadê o Netflix pra fazer um filme desse cara? Com Adam Sandler no papel principal.
Ai, meu Deus do céu.
Engraçado, né, que a galera da Blizzard é tipo, é old school mesmo. Eu não tô chamando o povo de velho não, mas você vê que é a galera que tá há muito tempo trabalhando na parada.
Pelo menos essa galera que aparece aí, né? A galera mais novinha tá mais abaixo trabalhando só.
Tá.
Sem saber de nada. Eu sei que tu nunca jogasse World of Warcraft, sem saber de nada. Se eu tivesse que escolher uma raça e uma classe pro Classic, tu escolhia qual? Eu passei muito tempo pra decidir. Muito tempo mesmo. Não vale pesquisar.
Não vou pesquisar não. Eu iria de humano ou de Night Elf. Dá pra ir de Night Elf?
Peraí.
Orc é legal também, né, mas...
Assim, aí depende, né? Se tu quer ser Alliance ou...
Não, Night Elf. Acho que é de Night Elf, acho legal.
Night Elf... Acho que Night Elf... Meu Deus, eu não tô lembrando se Night Elf não é um nome mesmo. Ah, é verdade, Night Elf. Tá, Night Elf é a raça e a classe.
A classe. Então, se eu fosse jogar, eu vou baixar, eu tô dizendo, eu vou baixar aqui o Classic. O negócio é que...
Night Elf, se você for Night Elf, só pode ir 5 classes.
Tem isso, diz aí.
Sim, nem toda raça pode ser 2 classes. Faz sentido pra história, sim. Você pode ser Druida, Hunter, Priest, Rogue ou Warrior.
Acho que ou Hunter ou Warrior. Acho que Warrior. Uma coisa mais simples,
o primeiro,
sabe? Eu não ia querer
a primeira vez
complicar,
que a primeira vez que eu joguei o WoW, eu fui um Dwarf Hunter. Eu gostava muito. E eu gostava muito de ser anão também. E aí, quando eu joguei no WoW Classic, eu criei um Undead Mage. Eu queria ser da Horda, eu queria ser um mago. Aí fiquei entre Undead e Troll. Aí eu preferi de Undead. Zumbizão.
Eu iria com algo bem simples, sabe? Eu jogaria mais pra jogar quest e tal, não ia com nada mais elaborado que envolvesse magias e buffs demais e tal. Só pra sair na mão. A cara tá dizendo que tá tudo enterrado, que ela não perde não.
Boa. Mas tudo tem... Tipo, tudo tem coisa assim pra saber. Eu assisto um streamer que... eu tenho um streamer que eu assisto que ele gosta muito de World of Warcraft. E ele, tipo, quando jogava, ele disse que quando era mais novo, assim, ele tinha seus 13 anos, ele jogava, e aí ele foi, tipo, ele era Hunter, e aí ele foi fazendo as quests lá e tudo, mas ele não fez uma quest que era pra ele destravar uma habilidade chamada Trank Shot, Tranquilizer Shot, meio que fazia o inimigo ficar meio que nocauteado por um tempinho. E aí ele disse que chegou, e aí queria entrar numa guilda, e aí a galera, tipo, fez entrevista pra ver se aceitava ele na guilda e tal. E aí ele disse que fingia fazer a voz mais grossa porque ele só tinha 13 anos, porque eles achavam que a galera ia deixar. Aí aceitaram ele na guilda, aí ele foi fazer a primeira raid, e aí aparentemente tinha uma hora que um inimigo lá grandão entrava em modo tipo Berserk, assim, matava todo mundo na hora. Aí nessa hora você tinha que soltar esse Trank Shot pra nocautear ele. E ele não tinha o Trank Shot. E aí disse que na hora que chegou, que o cara entrou em Berserk, disse que todo mundo da guilda, todo mundo não, né? O líder da guilda começou a gritar Trank Shot, Trank Shot, Trank Shot. E ele não tinha. Aí ele ficou todo assim, aí pronto, aí morreu todo mundo. E aí a galera metendo pau nele, aí ele disse, não, foi mal, eu caí, era lag, não sei o que. Aí tá bom, vamos tentar de novo. E ele ainda não falou nada. Aí ele achou, não, talvez da segunda vez não aconteça isso. E aí a segunda vez a mesma coisa, quando chegou tipo metade da vida do chefe lá, entrou em Berserk. E aí a galera, Trank Shot, Trank Shot, Trank Shot. E aí ele não tinha. E aí depois aí a galera meteu o pau, não sei o que. Aí não só. Aí foi que descobriram a verdade, que ele tinha 13 anos, que ele não tinha Trank Shot. Aí baniram ele da guilda e falaram com todas as outras guildas pra não aceitarem ele.
Pera, o cara queria
aí ele
jogar.
Ele teve que ir pra outro servidor, abriu criou outro personagem.
Treinar outra voz. É mais fácil o cara fazer uma voz, tentar fazer uma voz mais feminina do que uma voz mais grossa, né?
Não, se você tem 13 anos, a voz tá começando a mudar agora.
Mas hoje em dia, Rafa, por causa dos hormônios nas galinhas, um pouco sem voz grossa com 9 anos.
A cara tá dizendo que tem um amigo que tem 5 bitcoins no limbo por ter perdido a Cid.
Nossa senhora.
Esses 5 bitcoins é mais de R$1 milhão hoje em dia.
Não, pelo amor de Deus, sexta-feira vamos falar de coisa boa. Então, eu não tô conseguindo achar o Blizzard Arcade Collection.
Eu tinha 1 bitcoin quando o bitcoin valia $800. Hoje tá em $55 mil. Se eu tivesse guardado, eu tinha gastado 800 e estaria com $55 mil hoje. Eu não guardei, eu vendi tipo logo depois assim. Ganhei um dinheirinho pequeno. Ainda vai subir bem muito isso aí, então eu não tenho cabeça pra isso não.
Deixa eu ver aqui. Acho que achei um lugar, tá meio estranho aqui no site da Blizzard, a parada do Arcade Collection.
O quê?
Ah, rapaz, vê só. Não dá pra comprar o Arcade Collection separado ainda. Você tem que comprar aqueles bundles que eles falaram. Então, tem 3 bundles. Tem um bundle pacote essencial, pacote heróico, pacote épico. Esse Arcade Collection é aquele que vem o Rock'n'Roll Racing, o Lost Vikings e o Blackthorn, né? E aí o pacote essencial é o mais barato, R$79. Vem... Gente, não vem nenhum jogo. Caraca! Vem o Blizzard Arcade Collection. Vem um cupom de 15% na loja de tipo camisa da Blizzard. Aí vem 10 cartas de Hearthstone, uma montaria para Heroes of the Storm, 5 caixas de item do Overwatch, ícone de jogador, nossa, mascote de Diablo 3. Nossa, que coisa!
Sabe o que eu notei agora? A gente não ouviu uma palavra desse painel aí. E ainda tá atrapalhando a galera de escutar. Hã?
Eles estão muito nostálgicos aí sobre o negócio. Enquanto tá light aí, eu acho já
Não, eles estão, na verdade, eles não estão sendo nostálgicos, não. Eles estão falando de como foi o processo de criação, usando código de 13 anos atrás e tal. Código de programação.
Tô procurando informações sobre o que a gente já viu.
On that live ops team where I got to see what all the servers looked like and how it was all architected. And to pull back the curtain on this a bit, the way it was is everything was its own
sobre o Diablo 2 aqui. O jogo no total tem 27 minutos de cutscene, bicho. 27 minutos de cutscenes. Todas foram refeitas, frame a frame. O som também foi todo remasterizado para até 7.1 Dolby. Ah, tem um botãozinho, tipo o Halo Master Chief Collection, que você pode alternar em tempo real entre o gráfico antigo e o novo. No Diablo
eles estão mostrando um bug agora que eles deixaram. O que tu tava falando? Foi mal?
Tem um botãozinho no Diablo 2, o remaster, né? Que você em tempo real aperta, ele vira o gráfico original. Aperta, ele vai pro novo. Eles falaram o que aí?
Não, eles estão mostrando um bugzinho antigo que eles deixaram.
This blood elf who, you know, he remembers the sun well. He forgot.
Yeah. So everything didn't work the first time?
What? I know.
Yeah, I did.
Mostraram agora o bug que o personagem estava sem roupa na parte de criar o personagem.
Sure enough, what's going on here is that this guy thinks he's dressed, but he isn't, and you can see why he thinks he's dressed if you.
Bug que no Cyberpunk é padrão, né? A tela de criação de personagem Cyberpunk, se tiver alguém de sua família em casa, não crie seu personagem, porque é
pesadíssimo. A mulher perguntou ao cara se acontece muito dele esquecer de botar a calça. Aí ele disse, só nos sonhos.
And we'd use those to build up a single composite texture that's then wrapped around the geometry. But of course, in this case, when we were layering them on, none of the textures were assigned. So it just started with his, naked body, and then was going to go layer on textures and it didn't find any. So it thinks he's dressed, and so it's removed the underwear because it thinks it's put clothes on top. But there aren't anything there. They're all just completely transparent. So it's almost like the Emperor's New Clothes.
E tirou que geralmente quando ele tá sem roupa aparece uma cuequinha. E aí diz que como o código achava que ele tava de roupa, tira a cueca pra ficar mais eficiente o negócio. E aí ele apareceu sem nada.
Né? Mas fizeram detalhe demais pra esse modelo.
Como chama aqui nos Estados Unidos. E agora tá mostrando uma autona que corta.
Looks like the drain ice too tall, but the real problem is that we're in the wrong place. And so yeah, when you go to the Dunmorrow character select screen, of course the camera is positioned for much shorter races.
Então diz que parece que o personagem tá muito grande, mas na verdade é a localização. Tipo esse mapa, essa localização é que não era pra estar ali o personagem. Provavelmente foi feito pra um anão tá ali.
It turns out that Outland has a funny, unique feature that it doesn't have any oceans.
Hellfire Peninsula, só tinha água.
Falls off the edges and goes out into space or something like that. I'm not sure how that works in the game universe, but yeah, there's no ocean there. But we had accidentally flagged it to generate ocean, so we ended up flooding the entire world with an ocean until we found that and turned it back off.
So through all of these processes, yes, we're obviously we're fixing what is broken, but also we thought it was a good time to start enacting what we call #some changes to gameplay and how things should work.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like classic.
Tiveram que fazer algumas mudanças pro gameplay.
The goal was to provide as true to life, authentic experience of classic that we possibly could for the community, and we accomplished that. What was interesting to me is to see this vibrant community that embraced it and then said, hey, but we're not exactly the same as we were 15 years ago, right? And they're right. Like the times have changed, the world has changed.
Rafa, fiquei muito triste hoje, Rafa. Contando aqui ao vivo agora, que eu só comentei por cima. Comprei uma bela camisa de Destiny. Chegou. Quando eu abri, felizão. Eu vi um desenho amarelo, mas meu Deus, não tinha nada de amarelo na camisa que eu comprei. Escrito na camisa, Condzilla.
The difference is spell batching.
Ai, que saco. Já cliquei lá no negócio, já recebi o código pra trocar. Que saco.
Where they said, hey, I remember when I used to be able to have two mages polymorph one another and they would both end up polymorphed.
Outra má notícia, agora vindo do mundo de BBB, aparentemente Caio quebrou o pé mesmo. Vai ter que ficar com imobilizado com aquela luva por 6 a 8 semanas. E aí deram a opção a ele de sair sem que contasse como desistência, dele ir embora e ir pra casa. E aí, aparentemente ele escolheu ficar por enquanto, daqui a uma semana tem que fazer outro raio-x e aí ele vai decidir se vai continuar a ficar ou não. Mas ele tá de pé quebrado mesmo.
Aí tá aí. Só aqui, povo, vocês têm BLIZZCON e comentários do BBB. Rapaz, diferencial demais.
That's definitely great because I remember like every 2 weeks I get a bug report, Vanish is broken again, and it was because of stuff like this, right? Like if you vanish at the same time a fireball's hitting you, it's gonna pop you out, right?
Exactly.
Like, and so we were trying to do all these hacky solutions to it, but the real answer is just don't spell batch.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the ability to do that then, so glad we're doing it now.
Yeah.
You know, another one that I can think of is just how
saudade de sentar numa mesa com amigos sem máscara.
Back in 2004, 2005 timelines.
Agora sentar numa mesa assim, botar uma almofadinha pelo menos na cadeira.
And they want a challenge. They want more of a challenge. So, you know, rather than always giving them like the last version of the boss, the final form of the boss, which maybe has been hit with a few nerfs, let's not do that.
Engraçado, hoje tinha uma matéria, eu não cliquei não, mas o título era interessante, era tipo, por que danado a gente chama um boss de boss?
The initial version of that boss had a lot of spell pushback.
A gente trata tudo como um escritório.
That made it really tough to bring casting classes to that fight. We did fix that pretty quickly and change the fight to allow for that.
Eu nunca tinha parado pra pensar.
Porque geralmente na história, o cara mais forte é o chefão de todos os minions que a gente matou antes, mas não necessariamente, né?
But then probably a month or so after that we nerfed Mover's health. That doesn't need to happen. Let's just keep it in the hard form. We can evaluate any changes we need to make after that, but yeah, it won't just be like, hey, final form, we're not even going to look at it. Let's call it a day. So.
Yeah. So how
Denis ali. Os boatos sobre a morte de Diablo são demasiadamente exagerados. Bem demais.
No, I was the raid leader, so I got to choose who went. But
the one mage allowed to go.
that was honestly, that's one of my favorite fights ever in World of Warcraft. That was a really, really fun fight.
That's awesome. Another change that we're talking about making is along the lines of that PvP balance and faction balance is, you know, obviously with Burning Crusade, paladins are introduced to the Horde and shamans are introduced to the Alliance, and that was intended to be a balancing of the factions, and let's, you know,
é demais isso do 2. Eu acho animal isso do 2 dele começar diretamente, quase, assim, um pouco tempo depois, mas praticamente diretamente do 1 e envolvendo os personagens principais e tal. É animal demais, meu Deus do céu. Menino Dave Breivik, que pena que ele saiu da Blizzard, e que pena que parece, pelo que ele twitta sempre, né, o criador Diablo, parece que, pelo que ele twitta sempre, que não é muito bem-vindo, né? Não foi muito light a saída dele.
Another thing we want to talk about is arena teams. When it first came out in Burning Crusade, the arena team system only let you have the same number of players on your team that was the size of the bracket it was for. So, for example, a 3v3 team could only have 3 players on the team. So if someone was like sick or unavailable one night, you couldn't play. And that felt really frustrating. So we're definitely going to go with like the last version of that, where you could have twice the size of the bracket on your team roster, so that you had alternates you could swap in and out. And then that way, as long as anybody had participated in, I think, 30% of the matches, then they got the full credit for the week of participation.
Is that when we did personal ratings versus team ratings?
I think that came later, and we're also considering whether
Olha,
or not we
David
wanna do something like
Brevik,
that
que a
as
gente
well,
acabou de
because,
falar,
another thing that was
criador de
problematic
Diablo
about,
2, de
Arena's
Diablo 1 e
web
Diablo 2,
was
o grande
the
pai
way
de
that
tudo.
the ELO system was so inflationary. And so we're talking about
Empolgadíssimo
whether or
aqui,
not we
hein?
wanna move forward with,
Empolgadíssimo
with
com
converting that to something more like the modern
o
MMR
trailer do
system, so that
remake,
it
porque tinha
isn't,
muita gente
isn't as
perguntando
punishing to people
se
in terms of,
ele
like,
estava
waiting
envolvido,
hours
né?
for
Ele
a
disse que
match
não,
at
que
the
achava
highest
que
level,
nunca
some
mais
things
ia
like
fazer
that.
um Diablo.
And another change,
Mas sempre que a pessoa fala, eu acho que nunca mais vou fazer, ele um dia
give
faz.
players access to Blood Elf and Draenei early, so that before we actually
Muito legal, muito
open
legal.
the dark
Vendo as
portals,
screens
you'll have
aqui,
a chance
povo
to
tá...
level those
Não,
up. That's
pra
definitely
mim é
not
injusto
something
chamar
we
isso aí de
did
remaster, viu?
originally.
Isso é
Yeah,
remake.
I remember I had a friend who was really frustrated that the rest of us were all running around in Outland, and he was like, I'm still back in Wetlands. Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah.
When can I play with you guys? So yeah, I'm really glad we're doing that.
Yeah.
Doing that with pre-patch?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Very
Is,
cool.
yeah, pre-patch will come out and you'll be able to go start your Blood Elves and Draenei.
And then
Ah, ele tá especulando umas coisas
content.
interessantes,
So
Rafa,
we've got
que
some phases
ele acha que tem duas
Yeah.
mudanças
So the content phases
obrigatórias
that we got
para
coming
esse
are
remake.
exciting.
O
We're gonna
primeiro
start with,
é em como
Karazhan
funciona o range de
and,
tudo,
and
de todos
Gruul's
os
Lair and
ataques e
Magtheron's
magias,
Lair.
porque
And
tudo
we
foi
wanna
feito
start with just
baseado
that, release
no
because
aspecto
we found with
4
Classic that
por
people
3,
really
né?
enjoy
Que
that
era
kind
de
of
monitor
gear
da
progression.
época. E agora
And that's
16
where all
por
the Tier
9
4
tem que
gear
ser
is, with
alterado.
those
E também
raids. And we want people
o
to have an
Diablo 2
opportunity to
era
level up,
baseado em
catch up to their
grids, né?
friends, and all kind of go through
É,
this
a
stuff
parte
together.
dos
So as we
hitbox
unlock
e
each
tudo
chapter, we
mais.
wanna make sure everyone's had
E
enough time
agora ele
to
acredita que
be
vai
part
ser
of
uma
that chapter.
forma mais moderna,
And
mais
the next
poligonal mesmo.
chapter after that will
Ele
be
acha que
phase
isso tudo
2,
vai
which will be
mudar.
Serpentine Cavern
Tipo, então não
and
vai ser o
Tempest
mesmo
Keep.
feeling
Then next we move on to phase
daquele,
3,
mas
which
provavelmente vai
is
ser pra melhor, né?
Hyjal and the Black
Sim,
Temple.
sim, provavelmente. É
And
mais
the reason
atual,
that's
eu
changed
acho,
is, of
talvez.
course, originally Hyjal was
Que animal,
available
que animal.
from the launch of Burning
Tá muito
Crusade,
bom.
but nobody could really get
Belo
in there because
ano,
of the
hein?
way
A
the
gente tá
tombs work.
tendo
So
de
we'll unlock that as a
jogos
later chapter
Diablo
alongside
2
Black Temple.
Remaster,
And then that'll go with
God
Arena
of War
Season 2 at
2,
that point.
Halo
And then Arena
Infinite,
Season 3
Horizon
will come out
2, meu
alongside
amigo.
Zulaman with a little bit of catch-up gear for anybody who's taken that long to catch up. It's another
Cyberpunk, né? Que vai sair já já.
And then finally,
Cyberpunk
phase 5 is
ainda
some,
lança
Fantasy
esse
Season
ano.
4.
It's been a very busy year.
Yeah, it is. It's an expansion with a lot in it. A lot in it.
And so we spent a lot of time talking about Burning Crusade Classic and Burning Crusade, which is exciting. We're very excited about it, but there's a lot to talk about.
Adicionando duas novas raças nesse Burning Crusade. Blood Elves e Draenei. E já vão chegar na patch na pre-patch, tipo a pre-expansion patch.
Sempre tem, né? Pra dar uma preparada.
Primeiro vai ser Karazhan, Gruul's Lair e Magtheron's Lair. Depois vai sair Serpentine Cavern e Tempest Keep. Depois Hyjal and Black Temple. Depois Zulaman e por último Sunwell Plateau. São o conteúdo.
Talk about and explore these choices in some detail, and I'll give you some examples. So to start with the current
Uma das coisas que eu tô mais empolgado pro Diablo 2, Rafa, é que Padre Marcelo vai poder fazer novos posts com prints de Tirael, só que agora em alta qualidade. Pra quem não sabe, Padre Marcelo já postou umas 2 vezes uma foto de Tirael, que é um anjo, né? De certa forma, com alguma frase.
Or do you want to move to Classic? So in that space, you're going to do that for every single character. So for my example, I'm on Worm Rest Accord. So I've got a level 60. I am definitely taking that on through to Burning Crusade. But I've got a couple of mid-levels that I know I want to move with my friends. Those are characters I level with my friends in Classic, and I want to continue that journey with them. We want to make it as easy and seamless as possible to just get right into Burning Crusade, but there are options.
That's awesome. I'm excited to hear that. I know there's a lot of my friends, for example, who maybe didn't really play Classic when it first came out, right? And so now they're behind, and they're interested in playing the Burning Crusade. This was, for a lot of people, their favorite expansion that we've done. We want to make sure that those people are served too. And one of the ways we could do that is provide a boost to people who are interested in coming back, that maybe aren't interested in doing the classic WoW experience, but really want to hop right into Outland as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so the team, we spent quite a bit of time discussing it because we want to make sure we respect the time of the people that have been playing Classic for 2 years, but also we want people to be able to enjoy Burning Crusade if they loved it the first time and maybe miss Classic. So We are going to offer a level 58 boost.
E aí
for
cada
purchase, but it does come
cada
with some
personagem que
restrictions.
você
So
tem
it's
no
gonna
WoW
be right
Classic,
to
você vai
account.
poder escolher
It's
se
not
você
gonna be
quer
visible on
continuar
Blood Off and
jogando
Drain
só
On.
World of
You'll
Warcraft,
have some dungeon blues,
o WoW
you'll have
Classic,
level 40
ou se você quer
mounts,
avançar esse
professions,
seu
the
personagem para o
basics,
Burning
basically
Crusade, meio que
your
ele deixa você
Outland
branch
starting kit.
e levar tipo bifurca e você não, eu não quero que esse meu personagem vá para esse conteúdo de Burning Crusade, eu quero que continue no WoW Classic.
Ah,
Ou
que
então você pode
animal.
mandar.
Que animal. Então vamos...
Geralmente a galera que joga hardcore assim, em 2 anos, ele já upou pro level 60, né? Aí provavelmente já cria outro personagem, então tipo, geralmente a galera que é hardcore mesmo tem mais de um personagem.
Então assim, o cara que entrar em WoW Classic próximo ano e quiser entrar na experiência Roots de novo, ele consegue.
Sim, mas aí sempre conseguia. Tipo, hoje se você for no WoW normal e tem Shadowlands, você pode entrar na experiência Roots ainda. O problema é chegar e ir avançando nessas expansões, assim, que eu não sei ainda como funciona direito. Mas, tipo, pelo que eu entenda, e eu posso estar falando besteira, se tiver alguém no chat aí que sabe, pode corrigir. Pelo que eu entendo... Calma, deixa eu ouvir o que essa música.
I want to move that character to Classic Era. And what Classic Era means is that those particular servers are going to stay in that era forever. So that is going to remain Classic till the end of time.
Ah, então é isso mesmo.
Alguns servidores vão ficar Classic para sempre.
Animal.
E outros servidores vão distribuindo, vão tirando as... vão saindo com as expansões.
Animal. Animal. Porque senão daqui a um tempo eu tenho que fazer de novo. Classic Reforged.
Choice in WoW is something that's meaningful. It's always been meaningful.
Yeah.
And I think it's something
Daniel está ali, querido, cheguei em casa e vou para a jogatina aqui, mas ficaria atento aqui às notícias. Boa, Daniel, não, vá descansar, pelo amor de Deus, sextou. Qualquer coisa ficará gravada aqui. Já a gente deve ter um mergulho bom em
E se você tem amigos que já estão entrando em Burning Crusade e você quer criar um personagem, eles vão dar a opção de você um boost no personagem. Você chegar no nível 60 para partir para a expansão mais rápido.
Ah, animal. Pode, estão facilitando como pode, né?
So we're gonna actually offer a paid service to let you make a copy of your character. And I know like a copy is a big deal.
Que legal que vai sair para os consoles também, pô, o Diablo 2. Eu tô vendo aqui uma coisa porque eu achei que Diablo nos consoles não dava bom, mas depois que eu joguei o 3, eu zerei o 3 no PC, e aí eu peguei no PS4 também, e assim, é muito bom de jogar no controle, pô. Eu nunca pensei que ia dizer isso na vida, mas é muito bom de jogar no controle E assim, no PS4 Pro, no Series, no One X e nos da nova geração, obviamente, 4K e 60 quadros ali na mente. Coisa linda. Cacau tá dizendo ali que a jogatina vai ser grande. Boa, povo. Vamos jogar o quê? Vamos continuar no Torchlight?
So, Pat, when's all this happening?
Aí, Pito, teu grupo de Destiny aí. É só convencer eles a irem pro Destiny. Já tem um Fire Team.
Já é um Fire Team, olha aí. Eu botei ontem já o link do lore de Destiny. Eu tô devagarinho, Rafa. Tentando catequizar o povo.
For sure, we are committed to doing that. And what we're looking at is starting the beta rather soon. So hopefully that beta will go up. And
quero saber desse beta do Diablo Immortal. Deixa eu dar uma procurada aqui.
We'll start to hear some feedback on the things we've talked about today. If there's any adjustments we need to make, we want to make sure we have a long enough beta period for that to happen. And then we'll get that out to the players so you can all enter the Dark Portal.
Yay!
Yeah, it's exciting.
Já tá acabando aí essa parada de WoW e vai pra parte de Diablo. 6h35 tá dizendo aqui que começa a parte de Diablo. Então falta 2 minutos. 8 no caso aí, né? Porque eu tô 2 horas antes.
Povo, link aí no chat. Achei o lugar para se inscrever no Diablo Immortal, hein? Faça inscrição antecipada. Android e iOS.
Yeah, and for me, I've been playing Classic since it launched,
chamado da batalha.
and I wasn't working at Blizzard.
Obrigado por sua inscrição. Eba!
So, from me and the entire WoW team, we want to thank you for bringing Azeroth to life for us. So, we will definitely be seeing you in game in whatever flavor you choose. And until then, stay classic.
Boa, vamos pro Diablo.
Dolby is a proud partner of BLIZZCON Online. Watch Shock vs. the World in Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, only in the Dolby Access app. Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of BLIZZCON Online.
Até dar um gole aqui.
E eles anunciaram que o beta de WoW Classic do Burning Crusade tá chegando soon.
Soon.
Que massa! Tu viste aquilo?
Não, eu fui ver aqui um negócio no WhatsApp. Diz.
Que animal! Vai ter uma skin de Reinhardt em Overwatch que é Jim Raynor, de StarCraft.
Ah, que animal! Eu tenho uma bela história com Jim Raynor, Rafa, de StarCraft. Eu não tinha jogado StarCraft 1 ainda, e aí eu estava viajando, e a gente passou por uma loja, estava viajando aonde, meu Deus do céu? Meu Deus, eu não tô lembrando onde era.
Logo, vai começar o negócio?
Enfim, era fora e tava tipo baratíssimo uma estátua de Jim Raynor. Rapaz, tá tão barato esse negócio, tá tão bonita a estátua. Eu nem joguei ainda, mas vou comprar. Ela ainda tá na caixa, inclusive.
Ever since we announced
Opa!
Diablo for last BlizzCon 2019, we've been sharing updates with you guys through our blog, whether it's items, skills, zones, even user interface updates, and you guys seem to have really enjoyed that. Today, to mark the special occasion of BlizzCon Online on Blizzard's 30th anniversary, rather than doing a blog, we're actually going to share lots of video, introduce a new class like we saw in opening ceremonies, and also cover some open world topics, including mounts, camps, and PvP.
Yeah, this is like the ultimate blog post, right? We get to actually hand deliver it. This is the dream. It's all finally out there, and we can talk about all of it.
Just in case some of you guys missed it during opening ceremony, let's take another look at the Rogue Announce video.
Vamos lá ver de novo Rogue. Lembrando que tem mais um, deixa eu abrir aqui, vão ser 5 classes no Diablo 4. E a gente já tem 4 então agora com o Rogue anunciados. A gente tem o Bárbaro, sempre tem que ter. Eu geralmente crio o Bárbaro antes. Geralmente em jogos de porrada, RPG e tal assim, Diablo inclusive, eu crio o porradeiro de primeiro, o mais simples, o da mãozada. Depois que eu vou emaranhando por outros. E, geralmente quando é Bárbaro ele é chamado de Tocão, o Bárbaro. Mas enfim, Bárbaro, Mago, Maga na verdade, Rogue e Druida. O do Druida parece animal. O Druida vira um ursão, vira umas paradas. Só que são 5, né? Então a gente tem mais um. E no site oficial do Diablo 4 já tem, bem Diablo 2 assim, né? A fogueira e os personagens possíveis ao redor. E esse que falta, a gente saber quem é, ele meio que tá com capuz, mas ele é grandão, sabe? Como alguns desses personagens estão parecendo um mix de outros, como a Rogue, mesmo que parece um mix do Demon Hunter com a Amazon, com a Rogue, eu chuto que esse próximo herói vai ser um clérigo com alguma outra parada, sabe? Uma mistura de clérigo com não sei.
Sim. Aqui pra quem chegou aí agora, estão mostrando o mesmo CG que mostraram na abertura.
Agora o barulho da orelha, hein, galera? Foca no barulho da orelha.
Não, já passou a orelha, claro, mas a hora que ele enfia a orelha no gancho, o barulho que faz...
Tem uma hora que ela dá uma apertadinha na orelha, assim, que...
Sim, você estava falando na hora!
Graças a Deus.
Mas é porque tu não escutasse na última, ela no gancho. Espera aí.
Eu ouvi o do gancho, Eu saí da tela e fiz um...
Eita, bateu a fome agora. Acho que o jantar tá ficando pronto aí.
Boa.
Then we are settled. And you owe me.
Lembrando também que Diablo 4 não sai esse ano. A gente não tem confirmação da data, mas 2022 eu acho muito difícil passar de 2022.
I assure you, Father, the heavens didn't send me.
Meu Deus, como o jogo tá bonito. Eu achei muito legais as magias de área dela, bicho.
Também, achei muito massa mesmo.
Tem um outro que ela fica, tipo, aparece uns 3 ou... Aí, apareceu agora uns 3 ou 4, meio que clone dela, meio que sombra dela. Começa a tirar junto, vira uma turret. Muito legal. E escalonado, né? Aquele negócio que a gente viu que várias das skills vão ter níveis. E a gente dá pra ver algumas horas que ela usa essa rajada de flecha que vem de cima e atinge uma galera na frente. A primeira vez que ela usa é uma areazinha menor. A última vez é...
Ó agora o barulho.
Não, ver eu não vou ver não. Nossa senhora.
Na hora da orelha?
Ah, mas eu vi. Eu falei na hora que eu vi.
Eu queria que a galera que tivesse assistindo visse. Ah, meu Deus. Tudo bem. Vida que segue.
There's two things. There's the rate of arrows off the mount for the win, and then
Tá mesmo.
when that guy takes the ear and he stretches it onto that hook right at the end, it's like, oh.
That ear box never gets old. You know, I always wonder where all those ears from Diablo 2 when you kill other players went.
Now you know there's some creepy guy in a church collecting ears and putting them in a box. Just what we always thought.
No spoilers, but we're going to be hearing a little bit more.
Olha aí, galera, como sempre esperávamos, tem um cara coletando orelhas dentro de uma caixa.
But let's go back to the class, because there's just nothing more exciting to be able to introduce to a Diablo game than another class for players to check out.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. We don't get to do this very often, right?
I think it was you that said that, John. There's always room around the campfire.
There's always a little room.
We had kind of like very core archetypes to begin with. The brute strength of the barbarian.
Eu acho que isso é gravado, tipo... Teve uma hora que os três estavam conversando ali no World of Warcraft que deu uma cortada estranha. Aí eu acho que as paradas são gravadas, sabe? Ao vivo só foi a abertura mesmo.
Pela qualidade, não, pela qualidade da imagem tá
And we kept coming back to just the idea of bringing it to the kind of the godfather of all dexterity-based archetypes, the rogue that we saw in Diablo 1.
I mean, you got to be excited to have the rogue back. I mean, I know that like when we were exploring different classes, like you had talked about some of your experience with Diablo 1, right?
Oh, for sure. So one of the things that's super cool is like the rogue was always able to adapt their playstyle. So fans of Diablo 1, Diablo 2 rogues will be able to create very archetypical rogues, starting with the weapon selection. On the melee weapon side, rogues can use swords and daggers.
Chegou meu jantar.
As well as bows and crossbows on the ranged side.
You know, just those sort of dagger attacks.
É muito bonita a iluminação, bicho.
Tá inacreditável.
Looks great on screen.
Inacreditável. Olha ali no piso como ela é progressiva mesmo.
As far as the animations and what they do. You think about the druid and shapeshifting, or the barbarian with sort of, you know, his leap attacks. There's just all these great things that you discover with the rogue that you can't really do with other classes.
I love that you can start cosmetically from such a iconic place where you're wearing the red armor, you kind of look like part of the sisterhood of the Sightless Eye from the original games. You know, you can maybe even add some tattoos into the mix, some scars, make that rogue your own. Or if your fantasy of the rogue is a more traditional RPG outlaw, you're definitely able to create that and put on your kind of hood and half mask and be more of a shadowy character.
Yeah, and the character customization, you kind of mentioned it, being able to craft that, you know, the class of your dreams or your nightmares. It was a feature that I was honestly super nervous about when we started, because we never had this in a Diablo game. But seeing where it is now, it's one of those things that like I'm super excited about with where we're at. There's just a lot of creativity and fun looks, and you can be that you know, tattooed criminal outlaw, or you can be a more noble looking kind of, you know, sort of like thief with good morals.
Well, one of the things that we kind of kept running with beyond just the cosmetics was customization. We had this niche to fill in the class lineup that spoke to the finesse player, to the dexterity player, and just that everyone's idea of what that could be was a little bit different, whether it leaned more on range or melee. But we took that a little bit of a step further. We really wanted to have each class in our game have that one thing that makes you go like, that's bullshit when you see a player use it, and then makes you want to re-roll that class, because no other class gets it. For the rogue, it's the class specialization. The 3 specializations are combo points,
olha a grama reagindo, Rafa, que massa. Meu Deus do céu, esse jogo vai estar demais.
Exploit weakness.
I like Shadow Realm because I take the problem and I make it smaller. I mean, it's just I just pull 3 guys into the Shadow Realm and duke it out, and then I come back in. I'm like, all right, smaller problem.
I love the idea of exploit weakness.
Rogue cara, tá muito divertido de jogar.
The enemy attacks, players will see an icon flash over the enemy's head, during which time they will get to retaliate with much more damage than an ordinary attack. If you're quick on the draw, this is the specialization for you.
É aquela parada, né? Eles estão indo muito em Diablo 4 naquilo de contrário do 3, né? O 3 era muito pelo loot, acabou. Nesse não, você vai pelas suas skills, o loot é só um plus. Então dá pra você...
Eu acho que é o certo que devia ser, porque loot é muito grind, né?
E tira...
Vocês me ouviram agora que eu notei que eu tava com o microfone pra cima.
E tira um pouco do seu individualismo mesmo do negócio, porque você monta a sua build, mas você depende exclusivamente da matemática do loot. Não.
E no final, tipo, a melhor arma é a melhor arma. Tipo, não tem opção.
Não tem discussão. E aí dá pra gente ver que dá pro cara, se quiser fazer uma build de ataque rápido, curto, ou uma build de ataque à distância, ou uma build misturada, ou uma build de controle de área. Nossa, isso assim, um trechinho.
Que é uma coisa assim, mais MMO, né? No WoW Classic mesmo, você pode virar um Frost Mage, um Fire Mage, ou não sei o que Mage. É onde sua build tá mais focando.
E de acordo com se o jogo for bem desenhado, né, na verdade, de acordo com a fase que você tiver, o mapa que você tiver, o tipo de inimigo que estiver brigando, você pode alternar rapidinho entre essas paradas. Não, meu Deus, eu não posso mudar o estilo do meu personagem agora de jogar, de ataque à distância, eu tô precisando de controle de área por causa do meu loot, por causa do meu equipamento, que não vai beneficiar isso.
I love how that ties into the open world aspect. You know, the ability to go to Kyrgyzstan or Hawazar and get
galera que tá aí com a gente, muito obrigado pela participação e pela companhia, viu? Sextinha de noite, sextando com a Blizzard aqui, bom demais.
You pick up a sword in Kyrgyzstan, it's a scimitar, right? If you're up in Skazglen, which is up in the north, it's more of like a broadsword. You know, it's this sort of like this. It's a subtle thing, but I think it really, you know, different armors that you get in different regions.
Estão mostrando que como os drops de loot depende da região que você tá. Tipo, se tu tá num lugar que é meio deserto, uma espada que vai cair vai ser uma cimitarra, enquanto se você estiver no norte, assim, meio viking, sai uma longsword mais.
Contextual. Tudo contextual geralmente traz mais...
Isso serve pra imersão, né? E imersão é tudo no jogo de videogame, praticamente tudo.
Mas não é RPG.
Exatamente.
Through magic, through enhancements, it's just something that really spoke to us when we try to tap into the core of the class. Going back to those mercenaries that you could hire, it was always kind of cool to see what kind of special arrow shot they would come with, and it's something we paid homage to with the imbue system. All the way from directly elemental
lembrando que os Diablos todos, para não criar confusão com o Diablo Immortals, surgiu aqui a conversa num grupo. É um negócio bom pra gente falar mesmo. Diablo 1, 2, 3 e 4 são jogos de RPG que você pode jogar sozinho, single player, acabou.
Action RPGs.
Isso, Action RPGs, e tem, assim, o Diablo 3 tem temporadas, tem mapas novos, atividades novas e tal, mas é um jogo que você pode jogar inteiro sozinho, zero bronca. Lógico que com amigos, com mais pessoas, é mais outra experiência, né? Diferente. Não vou dizer que é melhor, mas outra experiência. O que é mais MMO é o do celular. O Diablo Immortals. Mas também ele é MMO Nutella, vamos dizer, né? Ele é
mais leve. Você vai ter contato com outros jogadores mais nas cidades e tal.
Bem mais acessível.
It's a really flexible way to take a build that you're already comfortable with, that you already like. Say you're really comfortable with flurry and shadow step as kind of your melee skills, and you find yourself needing more crowd control. Without changing your playstyle, you can just add the frost imbue to your bar, and now you're able to use those same abilities to slow down enemies or build up to a full freeze.
Yeah, and frost imbue plays pretty well with group play as well, right? You know, where I can freeze an enemy and somebody else can blow it up.
Or also the way that chills work in the game, they build up to a full freeze. So if your best buddy is a sorceress player, your chill spells and your frost imbue chills will actually build up faster than if you were using a single player. So, you know, just ask to open with Blizzard before you frost imbue, and you'll basically be freezing enemies twice as fast, which is super awesome synergy. So the last thing that's worth spending some time talking about the rogue is like how mobile the class is, just how able the class is to kind of close the gap between themselves and the enemy. Even while they're mounted, you might find yourself, you know, a full screen away and just dismounting into a rain of arrows, closing the rest of that gap with maybe like a dash, and then getting back out of there, dropping some caltrops. They can basically control the fluid motion of combat
Massa também
in a
que
way
pelo
that no
por
other class
esses
can.
gameplays que ele tá
That's
mostrando
something
tem
that
muito
beyond
cenário,
all of the other
muito cenário tipo templo, parece templo antigo, os casarões e tal. Eu gosto demais quando eles variam de cenário aberto e de dungeon mesmo, sabe? Que a dungeon termina sendo uma casa, um templo, uma igreja, uma parada dessa, é animal. Fica mais Diablo mesmo.
You're able to use offensive abilities in creative ways. Abilities like shadow step, right? Like abilities like Shadow Realm, abilities like dash. So you're able to kind of like use them to your advantage in a way that gets you out of a very dangerous situation by picking that one lone skeleton archer that maybe is not surrounded by everything else. You can shadow step there, get out of the way, and you know, live to fight another day, which just feels like such a rogue thing to do.
When I play the rogue, I really do feel like surgical precision. You know, I really feel like I can move through the whole screen without. It feels kind of effortless, and almost sometimes a little unfair. It's like when I go into Shadow Realm and I'm dashing, I'm like, am I cheating? Did I just break the game?
And we'll hear more about PvP in a little bit, but I just couldn't go without mentioning that some of our most feared PvP players on the team play rogue, and just the way they're able to like surprise you. You might be with a group of friends, and just that mobility lets them go to the middle of the group, unleash a rain of arrows that's frost imbued, and before you know it, you're all frozen. And looking at a rogue while you're frozen, let me tell you, there are fewer scarier things in our game right now than that.
So Luis, this was, I mean, this is like the ultimate blog post. This has been a lot of fun getting to share a new addition to the campfire. And of course, there's probably going to be more in the future, right? We always say there's a little bit more room around that campfire.
That's right. And that pretty much wraps it up for the rogue. So why don't we go to Joe and Karina and learn a little bit more about those open world features that we promised.
Well, thank you to Luis and John for introducing the Rogue, which I'm really excited that we finally got a chance to talk about and announce to the community. And we're here today to talk to you about...
Esse é o Joe, pior melhora ou pior piora?
Now, I think maybe the best way to start this conversation, Karina, would be just for me to ask you, like, what are you most excited about what we're adding in Diablo 4 for the open world?
Isso é importante. Vamos ver o que é que tem do mundo aberto do Diablo. Se é de
graça,
se não é.
I am really excited about just exploring the world. I am a huge completist naturally. That's the way I play.
Olha,
geyser. Bem que eu falei. Exploring and looking around every single nook and cranny. The more this game has been growing, particularly since last BlizzCon, the more fun I am having just riding around the open world on my mount and exploring everything.
Montaria,
bicho.
Yeah, it's
agro fun, I think. Now that we've kind of taken Sanctuary and just made it so much larger when you're playing through the game. You know, when you compare it to like Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, there's tons of like exploration and movement throughout the world in those games, obviously. But now that we've really been able to embrace the open world concept, we can really dive much deeper into like how does Sanctuary actually all fit together, like be able to ride from Skosglen to the Fractured Peaks, like it's very, very interesting that way. One of the things about that I think is really neat is the collection aspect of mounts. So I mean, there's all these horse breeds and other mounts you can find throughout the world, from completing puzzles or just finding hidden locations or slaying certain particular kinds of monsters. Find various horses or things to customize your horse with, like horse armor. There are hoof plates you can get and trophies to show off your accomplishments. There's lots of different ways to make sure that you can personalize your mount, make it really feel like it's your companion.
Yeah, and it's really cool that like you mentioned with the horseshoes, you get to actually change the speed at which your horse can run. And it's something I like to be able to customize the horse to the type of gameplay that I like to enjoy as a player. That's really, really fun. I like the amount of variety that you give us.
And I mean, there's more to mounts than just that as well. So like one thing we
No RPG, customização é chave. Vem de volta de novo aquela imersão.
This idea of like fighting from horseback, it's not really the Diablo experience. right?
Yeah, that's something I'm super excited for. Like we showed last BlizzCon, we had the sorceress, we showed her dismount skill Ice Dash, where she shoots forwards off her mount and destroys everything in her path. Well, with the rogue, we got to have a little bit more fun with it. And the animation department has done a fantastic job of having her leap up into the air and fire down like the rain of arrows.
Que legal. Não tem um combate de cima do cavalo, porque não fica legal pra diabo. Mas tem um tipo de ataque especial que é você saindo do cavalo. E aí cada classe tem um tipo de ataque diferente. Massa da Rogue, que ver de novo.
Fight it out, duke it out using your skills.
Chega já no Leroy Jenkins.
Ela já chega, pois é. Ela já chega.
But if a monster actually attacks you while you're mounted, you'll actually be forced to dismount. So there is a flip side of actually judging for yourself when you do want to use that skill in order to prevent you from being forced off unintentionally.
Galera muito chata. A galera tá no chat. Nerf os rogues. Tá na hora de nerfar.
One of the things I'm most excited about for the open world right now is this feature we have called camps. So camps are basically these strongholds of evil out in the overworld. You got to remember that decades ago, during the events of Reaper of Souls,
ele tá falando sobre uma parada que ele tá muito animado do mundo aberto, que são os camps, que ele chama de as fortalezas do mal, espalhadas pelo mapa.
Now there's a big power vacuum out here, decades later. And these monsters have started to move into these places. Bandits, monsters, goatmen, all kinds of different creatures, skeletons, the undead, have started to resurface and come back into these areas and start to take them for themselves. You, as the hero of Sanctuary, get to kind of wander through these spaces and begin to reclaim them for the people of Sanctuary. That's part of what makes them really, really neat. Each of them have their own story, they're their own unique fixed place in the world.
Unlike quests are something that happens randomly in the
world. Viu o negócio dos camps porque
camps are a permanent fixture that
não é só uma parada de
when you come across that evil, you can actually have a real impact on the open world that everyone else can see, because once you have defeated that evil, one of the really fun things is that you basically unlock that camp and you make a new waypoint.
Animal, adorei. Eu adoro quando num jogo, rapaz, a gente consegue alterar o mundo de alguma forma e a gente vê no gameplay, tá? Tipo no Ghost of Tsushima, que você libera alguns lugares, aí começa a ter mercador lá, começa a ter lugar de cura, essas coisas. Nesse Diablo 4, que se passa décadas após o 3, a expansão do 3, diz que vários lugares, vários camps, que ele chama, que não é um acampamento de certa forma, pode ser uma caverna, pode ser uma cidade, enfim, foi tomada por essas criaturas.
Na verdade, acampamento é o nome perfeito, porque você pode levantar acampamento em qualquer lugar, inclusive na caverna e na cidade.
Perfeito. E aí, não é só limpar esses lugares pela questão de completar as paradas, né, de completionista. Todos têm uma história, todos têm uma paradinha. Ele disse que tem vários, e depois que você consegue limpar e resolver a história, a quest desses camps, ele muda o visual, ele começa a ser habitado pela galera de cidades próximas, e tem outras. Nossa, animal, pode aparecer até side quests. Tipo, você liberou um camp e aí, sei lá, tem uma side quest que eles estão sem água naquele camp porque a galera fez tipo, é progressivo o negócio. Nossa, se isso foi feito direitinho, meu amigo.
And we now have been playing around with the idea of jumping across chasms to allow the player to get access to a location that they previously didn't have.
There's all kinds of areas players
eu acho que eu lembro a primeira vez que que eu joguei algo que tinha uma feature assim, Alpha, que você tomava conta de algum espaço, de alguma área, e mudava e você via sua galera lá, alguma coisa assim, que foi em GTA San Andreas na época, que você depois que eu acho que era depois que zerava, aí a atividade endgame era você tomar lá os quarteirões, né? Na verdade não era o bairro inteiro, os quarteirões dominados pelas gangues rivais, e aí quando você passava...
Compton!
Quando você passava lá, tava a galera da sua quebrada.
I'm a huge fan of PvP. I love
Isso eu me lembrei também de Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Sim.
É aquela parada de conquistar e defender também.
Sim. Então vamos falar de PvP agora, que de novo é a minha parte menos empolgada.
I find everyone they either love it or they hate it. And I personally love it.
Quem não gosta de PvP é porque é ruim em PvP.
The way that PvP works is that the hatred of Mephisto has been bubbling up from hell and has created these areas in the open world that you can freely walk into that kind of consumes you and makes you turn against your fellow players.
PvP, even in these areas, these fields of hatred, right? Even in these spaces,
tem uma história narrativa pro PVP.
To kind of collect shards of hatred.
Que é o que eles estão contando aí.
From, like, killing monsters,
E tipo,
from completing events, opening chests.
Você vai nesse PVP conseguir shards de ódio. E tipo, a história é que quando você entra, você começa a ser corrompido e você meio que se vira contra os seus companheiros. Essa é a desculpa narrativa do PVP.
Você tá vendo o foco no tudo ser contextual, né? Eu acho espetacular. Alguns dos meus jogos preferidos da geração tentam tornar tudo contextual. Vídeo Destiny, vídeo Ghost of Tsushima.
And take all of their shards before they finish. Once you purify them, they're yours. You can't lose them. But before they're purified, they're free game.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that, like,
quando você mata alguém ou monstros, você coleta esses shards of hatred. Aí você tem que purificar eles no lugar. Se antes de você purificar eles, alguém lhe matar, eles roubam esses shards seus. E a mesma coisa que você com eles. E aí você usa esses shards of hatred, eles viram tipo bufunfa pra você gastar com armadura, com essas coisas.
So you called out earlier that the shards of hatred are used for like some of the vendors you could find in the fields of hatred. There are some special vendors that only kind of arrive in these areas. They'll have special costumes or new mounts and weapons and things along those lines. Nothing that's like strictly more powerful than stuff you can get in other parts of the game, but stuff that really like speaks to your desire as a PvP player. And I think one of the things that's really kind of neat about the system in general is that as a player, if you choose to go hostile, betray other players that are near you, try to get as many shards of hatred as you can, you're going to slowly begin to kind of like infuse yourself with that same curse of Mephisto. And you're going to become a vessel of hatred. Now, once you do that, everyone within a very large radius of you is going to be able to see you as a threat on the map. And they're going to get a bonus for killing you. So when that occurs,
estilo GTA Online. Quando você mata muita gente, você começa a aparecer no mapa dos outros e aí dá um bônus quem ele matar.
Começa a ser caçado, é um bounty automático.
Isso, GTA Online tem isso, né? Quando você mata muita gente, você começa a aparecer tipo vermelho no mapa.
Kind of wrestling for this status and then trying to defend it once they actually achieve it.
Yeah, and there's also the ears that you get to collect as a trophy. It harkens back to D2, where I think you could sell the ears for 1 gold. I don't know if we're going to be doing that. I know we were playing around with them as a currency at one point, but I think right now it's just a cool trophy that you get to collect and show off.
Yeah, right now, very, very cool trophy. The thing was really neat about the Diablo 2 ears, like you could fill up your whole inventory with them, obviously, but being able to see like the people that you took the ears from, like seeing their character names on there, was always like the interesting, fun part. Kind of like proof, like yeah, I got that person that time, right? So we want to make sure that we embrace that aspect of it. That's the important part for us. I think that's going to be a really, really great callback to Diablo 2 PvP.
Right, yeah. So I love where PvP is going, and I love that it is such it's only one part of how large and open the world is, and really harkens back to the adventure in me when I play the game. How do you feel?
I'm super excited as well. I mean, there's so much to look forward to in Diablo 4 right now. Like what we talked about today just scratches the surface. In general, as a Diablo fan, there's a lot to be looking forward to in the franchise in the future. Thank you so much for watching today.
Tá lendo alguma coisa ou tá assistindo? Tá tão concentrado?
Tô assistindo. Massa, foi ótimo. Achei ótima a conversa. E ele disse que foi só um pouquinho do que tem de novo pra quem é fã de Diablo mesmo. Aguardar que o prato está cheio.
Agora tá na hora de Overwatch. Overwatch. Vem em mim. Overwatch.
Welcome everybody to BlizzCon. We know that you all want
Jeff!
to hear more about Overwatch 2. Allow us
Aqui a gente ama Jeff, tá nesse canal.
Behind the scenes to explain more of what we're doing and why.
Everybody, please hit record. Fingers crossed. We lost Scott.
It's off to a good start.
This is going great.
We've been assembling one of the best teams that I have ever worked with.
I'm nervous.
And I'm so proud of the progress that we have made together.
We really liked the stylized drop down.
Imagine that it's coming forward, boom, boom, this starts to spin.
The scale and the scope of this game have meant that we've needed to grow substantially.
We have to... Sorry. Let me start over. Overall, I think we've done incredibly well as a team moving to work from home.
Oh, shadow play.
There have definitely been challenges, but the team is really putting everything we've got behind this game.
To me, it's the next big step in the Overwatch universe. New heroes, game modes, major story beats.
With competitive and PvE, I see Overwatch 2 as the Overwatch for all of my friends.
You know, we're always inspired by what story and franchise development does with the animated shorts. We really wanted to bring that cinematic experience into the game.
You can invest in your heroes and grow them over time. I'm super geeked out about Overwatch 2.
I can't wait for people to play this game. It just gets better and better.
There are some things that we just can't do without a sequel. So thank you so much for your patience so far, and I hope you enjoy this behind-the-scenes look at Overwatch 2.
Opa.
All of our players at
Opa,
home, they
novos
want
mapas
to see
e roles.
one of the new maps that we've never talked about before.
Really? I can just like...
Agora tem no Brasil, hein?
Anything that I want to.
Yes.
You're serving this up to the guy that is like unintentionally leaked information in past interviews.
You can do it officially now.
Okay, so one of the maps that I'm most excited for in Overwatch 2 is our Rome map.
We always want Overwatch to feel like this globe-trotting adventure for our players. So we're having a lot of fun coming up with the Overwatch version of Rome.
We wanted a very romantic, sort of this powerful feeling of old world architecture. One of the most exciting things for me is the early building of these maps, where we get to sit down together with key people from the environment team, level designers, effects groups. We'll spend some time talking about moments in the game that we really
Eu adoro quando mostram assim o work in progress, sabe? Tipo concept art aí, assim, sem textura com textura.
Or we'll do a concept painting of certain things based on that.
We try to draw inspiration from as many different sources as possible. For example, one of our environment artists had just taken a trip to Rome, and he returned with thousands of pictures and was so excited to work on a map set in Italy.
There's a lot of ancient architecture in Rome that represents the empire that it used to be. So we brought some of that back. Some of the things that are destroyed in real life, we kind of rebuilt in kind of an Overwatch style.
It's one of the most beautiful pieces of environment art that I think we've made for the entire game, and it just absolutely took my breath away.
Muito massa, porque eles sempre botam esse estilo meio futurista nos mapas.
Can we reveal more maps?
Yes.
Eles não disseram que tipo de mapa é.
Não, eles falaram só que é PVP, né?
Não, eu tô falando se é Payload, se é King of the Hill.
I know what map I want to talk about. It's the one that I just get super excited about. New York
Legal
City.
O negócio que ele falou no começo, que tem coisas que agradeceu a paciência, né? Eles têm coisas que só dá pra fazer realmente com sequência, não dá pra ser um update.
We're really striving to make it as authentic as possible while still putting this Overwatch spin on it.
There's a lot of amazing buildings and architecture pieces that just, especially for artists, stands out a lot, and they usually use this kind of Art Deco style from the 1920s, 1950s.
We started in an area that's a little bit like the village. There's some smaller shops there.
Massa.
There's a fire station, little pizza places, and things that people that are familiar with New York City will either recognize or maybe see the reference that we're trying to make with some of our different locations. It feels like something you haven't seen in other games before because it's uniquely Overwatch.
Well, we should move on, otherwise we just have to reveal more maps. So we were talking about PvP, and you know, one thing that I think is really interesting about PvP in Overwatch 2 is some of the philosophical changes we're making to the approach.
PvP feels different and new. We're upgrading our combat feel. The roles are playing differently. When it comes to all new maps, it's a pretty big departure from where we are on live right now. So I can't wait to see where we end up with it by the
Será?
time we
Uma
launch.
mudança desse tamanho mesmo?
Olha, gameplay
We're also
no
experimenting
novo,
with
né?
the idea we call role
É?
passives, which are passive abilities that a hero can have based on what role they are.
Role
For example,
passives.
currently in our internal builds, the tank
Ah,
heroes
massa.
all have knockback reduction against them, and they also generate less ultimate charge for enemies that are shooting at them. Damage dealing heroes have a movement speed bonus, which is great for flanking around the map. And healing heroes, support heroes have automatic healing that kicks in after they haven't taken damage for a while.
No caso, cada role, assim, healer, tank, tem uma habilidade passiva agora.
That we've been exploring in Overwatch 2 PvP is a change to the tank role entirely.
Varia, né? Pode ser pra ele, pode ser pra equipe,
We
pra quem
want to
tiver
try to
perto.
make them more toe-to-toe.
A passiva eu não sei, talvez.
Agora, visualmente,
Bem parecido.
Bem parecido,
So, for
né?
example, for Reinhardt, we've given him 2 charges of fire strikes, so we can throw fire strikes a lot more aggressively and more often.
Os cenários dá pra ver.
Ah, muito massa, adoro o Reinhardt. Fui main de Reinhardt por muito tempo.
So you can, not quite turn a corner, but you can definitely more accurately pin targets and
Cancelar a charge.
allows you to use it much more aggressively and really go after those.
Mas tipo, o PVP até agora tá parecendo só um update gigante, sabe? Mudaram os gráficos, adicionaram novos mapas e gameplay, mudança de gameplay.
Just being the guy with a shield.
The changes to Reinhardt that we're trying, and they might not shift, that's just the reality, but the changes that we're trying right now are to try to embrace more of that instinct that players have when they want to play
Rafa,
a
estarei
big,
com você
burly
sendo
character
educado em
that
Overwatch.
looks aggressive.
Vamos nessa, vamos nessa, que saudade. Joguei muito tempo, meu main foi Reinhardt, depois meu main foi Roadhog. E joguei muito damage com McCree.
We're putting a ton of effort into looking at all of our characters and trying to give them even a more visceral weapon feel.
From sound to VFX to animation to the design of these
Será que eles vão dizer que tem mudança no DualSense?
Weapons in the game and a whole new sound system that's driving it, and we didn't just level up a unit.
Acho que tudo vai vir, Rafa. Essa primeira leva tem uma coisa ou outra que não tem o suporte, mas acho que é pela pressa, né?
When we first started working on Overwatch, we spent quite a bit of time working on gunfire sounds and just general combat feel to make it feel really awesome. We're revisiting pretty much everything. Nothing's off the table, so we're looking at even kind of small things such as quick melee attacks that every hero has. So they have kind of new audio pads and
modo cooperativo mesmo, tipo um Left 4 Dead, né?
One of the bigger efforts we're undertaking for Overwatch 2 is what we're calling our Weapon 2.0 Sound Pass. What this is a big overhaul to the weapon systems in the game. That means the way the gun feels in your hands.
Basicamente tô falando da mudança de áudio nas armas e tal.
Amplify those sounds to better encapsulate the gameplay and the gunplay.
Você escuta o som de que tá acabando sua bala. Você precisa recarregar. Muito interessante isso.
Another key for the weapons was getting them to feel like they're in the environment. This meant working with convolution reverb. It's a new system that we've implemented into Overwatch.
Opa, vai ter eco agora, talvez. Se tipo você atirar dentro de um lugar, faz um barulho, sabe? Vamos ver isso aí.
Profissão, bela profissão, hein?
Pegando o eco aí da...
Rapaz, sabe um jogo que tem um som espetacular das armas? O Metro Exodus tem um mapa, acho que é o terceiro capítulo, que é um desertão assim, tipo esse. Meu amigo, quando você atira com um sniper...
Rapidão, deixa eu ouvir isso aqui. Olha dentro, você escuta o eco.
And it gives a lot more presence to the weapons and the way that they react in the world.
The shooter genre has evolved a lot since Overwatch 1 came out. On top of that, I think
meu Deus, esse cara parece que é um CG.
Parece que é um personagem de Borderlands.
Not just on
Eu quero dar os parabéns para o gel que a galera da Blizzard usa, viu?
The gun moves as you shoot. You know, so you can really feel every single shot.
Quem é esse aí quadrúpede?
There's a lot of subtle little tweaks we have to do on the gameplay.
Orisa, ela.
Make that feel really visceral.
Quer dizer, na verdade é um robô.
Making sure that the
Mas
camera
Orisa é mais antigona ela.
If you get shot, you know exactly these tight indicators show up on the outside of your reticle. All these things play into
pouco que eu joguei de Overwatch, eu gostava de jogar com aquele robôzinho, acho que é Bastion, né?
Take 76 for example. What we wanted to do.
Bastion Soldier 76, feito esse, é um dos mais fáceis de jogar.
É, por isso, era pegava torrete,
together, but it really feels like the gun is almost just outside of your control. A lot of that comes down to this camera shake technology, where every time you fire the weapon, you want to feel like it's running through your entire body, and the camera shake gives that extra bite to every single shot out of the chamber. It makes him feel really great.
You guys got a sneak peek of Sojourn from last BLIZZCON. She's been undeveloped for quite a while, and she's actually quickly at this point become a lot of people's favorites in-house. When we look back at Overwatch when it was originally
Pronto, eu não joguei desde que essa mulher saiu, esse Sojourn. Esse herói eu nunca vi, nunca joguei com nem nada.
Farah was based on a rocket launcher hero. Widowmaker is clearly like kind of the sniper. We thought there was a weapon that was kind of missing that would be a lot of fun to play with, and that's a railgun. It's so much fun in the playtest to have this really powerful shot that can, you know, rip through enemies if you really are accurate with it. She's all about that aim skill. So if you got that aim skill, you'll love her.
We're still exploring new game modes, and we're also reevaluating older game modes that people are more critical of. You know, we're of the mindset maybe 2CP doesn't exist in Overwatch 2.
Two capture points. É horrível. 2CP, exatamente. É horrível, meu Deus.
We really want Overwatch 2 to feel like the next evolution, a true sequel to the first game.
2CP pode tirar, tipo, do jogo. É muito, a defesa tem muita vantagem no 2CP. É triste.
And I think it's exciting. Hero missions
aí, o single player agora.
That's the hardest to wrap your head around
o PvE, no caso.
Played one of them. The goal around hero missions is for these to be this co-op PvE experience.
I personally only play competitive mode. Like I'm all about that competition. And I have friends that they don't want to do that at all. So I'm really looking forward to a game that I can play hours and hours with my friends who aren't in competitive, and it's also something that I'm interested in.
Hero missions are the content that people are playing as they are leveling up their heroes, and so for a system like this to really sing, you need a lot of mission. We don't want players to feel like they're just in this grind to get to the top.
And there's a lot of really, really good back-end technology that we're exploring so that the heroes are constantly bringing their personality and some light story to these hero missions as well.
The goal is to make as many as possible, hundreds of hero missions.
Nossa, centenas de missões.
We've explored a lot of different ways of getting to that much content. Still have like different sets of enemy units that people will be fighting against, and there's different hero mission types. At the same time, hero missions can take place in all of the multiplayer maps that we've done, and we're also adding new spaces onto some of these maps.
Curti, hein? Curti, ainda vai ter tipo pedacinhos de história em todos os personagens, cada vai ter fala de acordo com sua personalidade.
Blizzard já sabe que lore de Blizzard é muito bem feito, né?
We came up to an area in King's Row that usually has a gate on it. Suddenly that gate opened and I saw a new area of King's Row that I had
que massa, novas áreas no multiplayer.
No mapa que já tem do PVP, de acordo com a missão, às vezes vai abrir uma nova área dentro, né?
Isso. Really cool. It was like this eye-opening special moment.
Lan, our lead tech artist on the environment side, very early on her own free time, made a prototype of a sandstorm on the Temple of Anubis map.
And at the time, we didn't know what we wanted to do with that, but it looked awesome.
We looked at it and went, oh my God, we absolutely have to do this.
So we put some new technology in place that allows us to do this dynamically. You start the mission off, clear day. Midway through the mission, suddenly this sandstorm or heavy weather would show up.
It made the world just feel so much more alive.
There's a sunset daytime, nighttime, but depending on where you are in the world, these look different. California
horas do dia também.
Would have what we call a California sun. New Bonnie, there's a
La
great
Land,
African sun that happens there. You sort of get a sense of space and mood. This is what really brings the levels to life.
É Hollywood o nome do mapa, na verdade. Mas eles botaram o título ali, La La Land.
Landscapes, the wind and the atmosphere blowing by. It's a much more cinematic experience for the player.
Before you start a mission, you look at a map. It's nighttime in Necropolis, or there's a sandstorm in Necropolis. Players can make some comp choices based on knowing this information. Characters like Hanzo or Widowmaker start to be a little more valuable because they have abilities that allow them to see through the sand more clearly.
Are we gonna talk about any of the types of objectives in hero missions?
Yeah, let's talk about the objectives. Players are being asked to do different things from one hero mission to the next so that they all feel really fresh to the player.
For example, we have Gather and Return, where you're trying to go and grab these different canisters to kind of safeguard them so they don't go off and affect the population in a negative way. It creates this really cool tension in the world where on the one hand you're trying to split up and go grab all these canisters to be as efficient as possible.
A mulher não parece estar muito animada.
É isso que eu tava pensando. Não sei se ela tá com vergonha. Ela tá lendo, né? Alguma coisa pra mim.
Turns into a pretty bad situation really quickly. And it
Não
feels
leu antes, né, senhora?
Acho que não, ela tá só contando. Esse modo parece legal.
All sorts of ideas and
tem que pegar as paradas.
We have names like Wall of Death, Scavenger Hunt, and Kill Quest, and all these new mechanics and enemies for people to experience.
Já ele vai falar.
E o
grande modo
night,
Battle Royale.
play different hero missions, and
Ai, meu
then
Deus,
work
não.
through the progression system, leveling up their heroes.
At BlizzCon in 2019, we started to talk about
Isso é que eu quero saber.
and we showed the very early version of
Se
our
isso vai
talent
afetar o
system,
PVP.
which I think was really cool. We
Tipo
had
isso
that
aí.
one talent where like Meg became the rolling snowball, which was a big hit. We've really blown
Deus.
that system out.
I'm real excited about talents. You can play the same hero in so many different ways. Now with the skill tree, you can have fun every night doing different things and kind of experimenting.
Yeah, the talent system is like really deep and rich, and
olha
every
o
single
tamanho do
hero
skill
has
tree.
different
Enormes
trees.
e
You might
tipo, três
open up
subclasses,
76's tree, and as you're leveling,
Mas eu imagino
and
que isso
picking
seja só
new
pro
talents,
PvE, né?
You're starting to feel your
Acho que
hero
não, hein?
change. We've had some pretty hilarious versions of the healing one where his biotic field travels with him. It also repulses enemies.
Olha
We
só.
call it the snowplow build.
Que
Where
massa!
76 is like running through spaces, pushing enemies away from them.
Designing these is super fun because it's like we get to break all the rules that we've sort of established for ourselves, and we get to really take the gloves off and do crazy
no
things
gameplay
like
eles estão mostrando
Junkrat
só a
can dual
PvE.
build grenade launchers, and
É.
we've had Mercy be able to.
E faz sentido, porque senão vai quebrar o PVP.
At super long range through walls. It's been a ton of fun, kind of like mad scientists.
Não
making
tem
all
como
stuff.
balancear tudo
You're all
isso no
used to
PVP.
using these kind of kinetic weapons,
Competitivo,
like
né? Se for
Sword
casual,
76
tudo bem.
or fire attack like what Reinhardt's Flame Strike does. As soon as you start to mutate these things with talents,
Mas
all of a sudden
provavelmente
you're
vai ter
doing
mod
freeze
em um
damage or electrical
PVP que
damage.
vai ser
But it gives the
tipo
animators a
freestyle,
bunch of
sabe?
crazy opportunities.
Isso.
You know, the animations are going to change to show them freezing and shattering. And if you shock someone with a lightning attack, they can shake in place and stun, maybe chain to other enemies. All sorts of stuff to make you feel like you're controlling the battlefield.
Nossa, agora o potencial de consumir 1000 horas de cada pessoa.
As a
Isso aí,
huge RPG
com
nerd
todos esses
myself,
modos.
the first time I opened up the
Já-
talent tree systems, it was like, oh my gosh, this is
Já
this
comeu
is
muitas
speaking
horas
my
da minha
love
vida.
language. Like, I just want to plan, and I want to see like where do I want to invest, and how am I going to play this character?
Yes, it's so great. And you start at the bottom of the tree. Like,
Yes,
oh my,
exactly.
like Tracer
Ela ficou
gets to
feliz
do
agora. Ah, que coisa
what?
boa.
And then you start working and kind of planning how you're gonna get down there. It's like, it's so fun.
Mas Jeff é muito. Olha a calminha dele, olha ele, ó.
When we look back at BlizzCon 2019 and we talk about some of the criticisms that we had, one of them as a development team that we felt was that the combat was just not engaging enough. So the fact that our combat wasn't highly engaging to us as players meant that we had a problem with the enemy units and that they just weren't feeling interesting enough.
Just because we show something to the public, it doesn't mean that that is what it's going to be. If we make discoveries where things aren't working how we want, they're not reading how we want, they're not fun enough, we're totally down to reinvestigate, reiterate, and just really find ways to level kind of
Cara da ponta esquerda tem uma bela guitarra no fundo.
I would say a major focus of all of 2020 was to make
nossa amiga inimiga da alegria não, que ela ficou feliz agora. Tem uma foto de cabrito ali.
Caramba, olha quantos inimigos. Cara, que ela que pinta esses quadros aí no fundo dela.
So sometimes we're going to ask you to protect something in Overwatch 2. Sometimes we're just going to ask you to get someplace. Sometimes we might ask you to escort something across a map while it's being attacked. And so it's a different type of spawning, and it's a different type of units that are in there, and it's a simpler objective.
There's a lot of units Aaron is talking about. Lots of different units, lots of different types. They serve different purposes. You do different things to them. It's really going to help a lot of us find the.
E essas estatuetas de Overwatch, eu sonho em ter. Vê, o cara da ponta direita tem 3.
Enorme, né, bicho?
Is what we internally call objective units.
O Reaper tá no meio do ultimate dele.
The simplest version would be something like the Breacher.
It's 2 legs with this huge bomb on its back. It was built to do one thing: slowly and methodically march towards its objective.
Tiozão parece
transforms.
Vai cantar AC/DC a qualquer minuto.
Like a flower. It starts spinning and charging up, and you hear this awesome sound, and you know you have
Creeper então, de Minecraft.
Before it's gonna explode, and you have to take it out.
We have units like the slicers, which you guys have seen before. They're little, we call them the chickens. They're little chickens. They run really fast.
Alô, Horizon! Horizon todinho aquele ali.
Drops these bombs that
Eles disseram que chamam eles de The Chickens.
Smoke fields that you have to escape from, but because they're super deadly, so you really get to use your mobility options.
Acho uma bola de futebol isso aí.
There's things like the polar. You could be moving through these darker alleys, and as soon as you hear that polar spawn, it suddenly becomes like really spooky and kind of scary.
This very tall, elegant-looking character that's blindfolded, 3 orbs that circle around her as her eyes, and we basically spun those orbs around her head as a big tell, launched them at the player, and then it activates this tractor beam, and it's bringing you in, and then you get this awesome anticipation of the hair opening up so you know what's about to happen.
Olha isso.
One thing we've just recently been experimenting with is this idea of elite units. We didn't want the elite units to feel like they're just, oh, this guy's got double health and double damage. We want to make sure the elite units feel like they have different behaviors and have different attacks. So, for example, an Omnic Grunt, normally he just he fires his gun, he dies pretty simply. If you fight elite Grunts, his weapon fires in a burst fire pattern. It's very deadly if you're close. And if you manage to take them out, they don't just die right away. They instead can crawl on the ground towards you, and you try to back away because if they get to you, they can explode.
Caramba, olha isso. Aí é Dead Space.
Opa, tem.
BLIZZCON. We're all just staring at this, and we're like, what are we gonna do to level this up?
One of the things we really felt wasn't coming through was the damage states. We intend for players to shoot these guns off, but currently it's not reading as something that can happen in the game easily.
We changed the design, we changed the animation, and we go back and forth and just continually iterate.
We decided, hey, you know what? We're gonna just delete half of these damage states, so now it's super readable.
From an animation standpoint, we decided on spinning barrel version. Just did this really nice kickback. The tip of the barrel opens up when it's about to fire and shifts into place and boom!
It's really amazing to be fighting an artillery unit and you can see the guns.
Dá pra ver que o cara fez a animação, né?
Boom! Blow them off and it reacts and kind of stumbles to the side and really makes you feel like you're there, and it's super fun.
In a lot of the stuff we've showed so far, you're fighting null sector. These are evil killing machines intent on marching you down. The way you're going to stop them is by shooting them, and we want to make sure that feels responsive and visceral. Really making sure that when they take a hit, it feels like their whole body has been punched, almost like hit by a truck. That's what really sells this fantasy that you're playing these superheroes. One of the cool pieces of technology that we created was what we call chain hit reactions. Oftentimes you'll find null sector bunched up, marching maybe a half a dozen units abreast.
Faz muita diferença pra mim, tipo, a reação à pancada, ao impacto, ao tiro que for, ser contextual mesmo, tipo, ser
alívio.
Ser esponja de bala. Nossa senhora. O que fez aquele Binary Domain jogaço é isso.
Os novos gráficos.
But also kind of show that heroes evolved and kind of changed and moved forward. So we have a lot more new looks So I'm excited to see how players and fans react to all of the ones that we've done so far.
Maybe we'll share some of those new looks today, which would be cool.
Gente boa, galera do Overwatch, bicho.
McCree's new look for Overwatch 2, as well as Pharah. And
Isso
we're
é
really
Jeff
excited
Goldblum.
to show off our first villains with Reaper and Widowmaker. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about technical wear, kind of like technical clothing. What that really is using very techy fabrics, as well as having very intricate but functional straps designed in a way that is very aesthetically pleasing. With McCree, we took a couple of different approaches. He's got this classic cowboy look that it's really hard to mess with, because if you try to make him too sophisticated or too techy, it might not feel right for the character. But as a concept artist, you always want to change things around and try different shapes and silhouettes. So we did identify as Red Serape as the main thing for McCree. We also tried a couple different things with McCree's cowboy hat. We didn't really want to mess with that too much, because that's a very iconic part of him. So that's another piece that we kept. We tried some retro cowboy looks that mixed in some tech here and there. Some that were a little bit more techy than others, some that were a little bit more classic cowboy. We gave him a little bit of a longer beard, and it really gives
o massa é que tudo isso que eles não decidem pra ser o principal vira skin depois, tá ligado?
Pharah's completely covered in armor. We didn't want to change her silhouette too much. It was more about
Pharah é a única que voa. Eu tenho uma skin de Pharah que é sensacional.
To harken back to those original Overwatch colors of white and blue. One of the things that we wanted to update on Pharah was her visor. Instead of being completely opaque and reflective, we tried a little bit more of a transparent approach, and being able to see through it a little bit now allows us to see some more of her emotions. Reaper was actually the ones I was very excited to work on, because I could see a lot of potential in how we can integrate his cloak and his cowl and his armor, and how we can make all those shapes really sing within that classic, Reaper silhouette. We tried a couple takes with the first pass, like completely silver arms, more layers to his jacket. Reaper's mask is obviously pretty sacred to us, but the thing you'll notice immediately is that it's now completely silver. Instead of the bone white, he's got this almost like deadly edgy silver that just gives him that classic Reaper look. With Widowmaker, we started with the IDA stage, exploring a breadth of ideas. We tried things like a more insectoid approach, treasure hunter. One of them made her feel like a classic Bond villain, so we kind of steered it back towards one of the more cyberpunk looking ones, almost like a futuristic femme fatale, which is basically what Widowmaker is, but she even feels more upgraded. So I'm super glad that we went down this route. We played with different hairstyles too. Widowmaker has the really long ponytail that's really a key part of her look. And we really liked the hairstyle on one of the designs that was more of a braid, and it was really interesting look that also preserves Widowmaker's original silhouette with that long ponytail.
We've been working a lot with our domino engine and making our cloth look better. Now that we have this cloth tech, we're going to be able to make some really cool, unique silhouettes that will help them stand out from other heroes. We put a lot of time and effort into our face rig, and what I mean by that is we're gonna be able to get really close to these characters, and it's gonna feel really cool. It is absolutely worth the time and the effort to invest in the technology, and that way we can make these characters do more things that we haven't really been able to do before.
It's been super exciting working on the new looks for Overwatch 2, and it's just been so inspiring to watch the team try things that we've never tried before, and I just can't wait to show off more in the future.
Essa ombreira de Reaper tá brabíssima.
Overwatch 2 is probably the largest opportunity we've had since the inception of the franchise to really expand what Overwatch even means to our players. In 0 Hour, we saw that some of the heroes got back together, but we're also seeing that there's
Pra quem não sabe, você pode ir no Play Overwatch no YouTube e ver as animações que eles fazem, que é a lore. E são as animações assim, nível Blizzard, são animais assim, curta-metragem, 10, 15 minutos.
They were really the torchbearers of what the big story is that we were going to tell for this game.
We have a lot of interaction with them. They're working on in-game cinematic intros and outros for every one of our story missions.
It's been really great to see this collaboration grow and develop. The story is just a little more integrated into our missions than it ever really has been before. All the available heroes get dialogue for a given mission. We have NPCs. We have multiple hero choices.
We have all sorts of events that are happening that are driving players to interact with each other. or parts of the environment or other characters.
The world of Overwatch is this bright, shiny future. So how do you take that bright, shiny future and create conflict in it? How dark can the world of Overwatch go?
The different challenges that these characters are going to have to overcome in Overwatch 2 are things that they haven't ever dealt with before or dealt with on this scale. So what we had to do was literally strip it down to those bare bones of where are these characters in their lives. Overwatch has been disbanded, and now there's a situation where the world's in trouble again, and the world needs the heroes again, but they're not allowed to be doing what they were supposed to be doing.
We started to book these off-site locations so we could brainstorm over and over different versions of what the Overwatch 2 story campaign could be.
And we basically had these whiteboards that we were carting around everywhere.
The room was filled with whiteboards, and we would just write every day story beats with the characters and who was doing what and where, and oh my gosh, we forgot this character.
We had these giant sticky notes, and each one of them would be a mission with a bunch of notes on it. You know, somebody say, well, what if we moved Rio to the end? And they'd physically grab it off the wall and stick it on the end.
And we did this for a while, you know, until we all felt that it was pretty close to what we wanted.
Then we could send it to our writers' rooms. The writers' rooms then had a much clearer direction of where we wanted this process to go.
Ultimately, we come up with something that we think is right for the game, and then we pitch it back to the game team, and they point out everything that we missed.
And that allows us to actually back up and go and make it right and make it better.
Because the scale of this story is so huge, it takes place over the whole world, basically. It just requires a constant iteration, constant refinement to make the story as best as we can make it.
From writing, we go to storyboards. The storyboards get crafted with the edit. From there, it'll go to a previs department where they'll start to flesh it out in 3D. Once we've kind of figured out our camera work and our cinematography, that'll then go to the animation department. And then we end up going right into the game engine.
Mostrando os passos, começando o storyboard.
One of our challenges was to figure out how to integrate this story and this narrative with the gameplay.
So if the intro cinematic ends with this huge battle, this huge war, when you get into the game, it has to mesh and feel the exact same way and blend together.
We really are also trying to get the music to be equally as consistent from in-game cinematics straight through to the mission. Adam Burgess, our lead composer, has been working with the IGC team, with the game team, developing themes for all of the heroes, all of the locations.
As the cinematic director, whatever we're crafting should never override the gameplay. We want to make sure that the player's experience going from the cinematic to the gameplay is seamless and it feels like a completely immersive experience.
The engineers, we have to find a way to actually make that come to fruition. The choreo tool is a tool that allows people to coordinate different events to happen at the same time. Like in Rio, if you played our demo, one of the buildings explodes, and so that kind of event needs to happen as you're running by.
Tem Rio aí, tem Rio aí.
Because if it blows up too early, then you don't see it.
Tem o quê?
It allows story moments in missions that interact with the environment, that interact with our characters.
The new tech, the new abilities that we have now are allowing us to push our storytelling farther than we could have previously.
What's also really powerful about choreo is that, you know, if somebody has an idea, they can mock things up really quickly.
We got to show the Widowmaker making this awesome introduction. Casey was able to quickly put a really rough prototype in choreo. And Philip would come in and on the fly, he's making quick changes. They play tested something that would normally take weeks. It was done in like a matter of days.
Ainda tá bem discreta a melhoria neles, o modelo e tal, mas os cenários dá pra notar, né, que tá bem melhor.
Sim.
India is one of our
mas eu ainda acho que isso aí roda
it's a fun map because it has a few story beats that we've taken from recent comics and characters in the game.
Só indo.
We've written a history for each city so that cities feel lived in. And I think that informs the artists so that they know like what it is that the city has been through.
Gothenburg was our chance to show Torbjorn's workshop. We created a space that kind of fits his height. So there's, you know, step ladders and scalable tables. We designed the space as if we were Torbjorn. Molten steel is pouring out of walls. It's pretty epic when you walk into it.
Muito bom esse primeiro dia de BLIZZCON, viu?
Toronto was under siege by null sector when the players arrived here. There's a dynamic snowstorm. So as you make your way through the level, the snow is slowly building up. Suddenly by the end, the characters are caught in this gigantic snowstorm and they must fight their way through.
In Overwatch 2, we want to give you choice to be able to play this character or that character. So we're designing a lot of systems around how their relationships develop over the course of the story.
Essa parada de Overwatch acaba 7h30, não, desculpa, 7h45, 7h40, ou seja, daqui a 2 minutos, para começar Diablo 2 Resurrected.
Ah, amigos, aí sim. Agora sim, já tá acabando, né?
Isso aqui tá nos últimos 2 minutos de Overwatch.
Branching dialogue system. If you happen to have Genji and Mercy in the second mission of the game, you might get different dialogue that's about their relationship.
Our voice actors bring the characters to life in ways that everybody has fallen in love with, from inside Blizzard
muito
to
bom esses
the
cara,
fans.
os dubladores.
Just to hear this collection of actors all together, all interacting, has been a real treat.
No canal de Overwatch agora tá rolando painel com eles.
I wish people could see how many people are involved when it comes to something like telling the story of Overwatch. It doesn't just come from a singular person, it comes from a group, and it's a really talented, fun group that all works together.
We've been developing what we hope is one of the best stories ever. There's some key story moments that I'm really excited about, and I really can't wait to see how people react to it.
Muito foco, bicho, nesse da história. Adorei. Massa.
We've been talking about the game, about this universe. I know you all love it so much.
Right now, we can sit down and have
Para de rodar na cadeira, Jeff. Tá parecendo nosso amigo Luffy aqui.
And I think we need some more time till we can say it's perfectly polished in the way that we want it.
We've made such incredible strides since we first announced
Dá uma
this and
data,
showed
vai.
it to the community at BLIZZCON in 2019.
The thing that I'm most excited about is that moment when we hand the game over to the players.
We want to create something that really moves people, really touches people.
That's why we do it. We create the game because we want it to become part of your life and for you to experience it.
Wow.
For Overwatch 2, we're upping the bar.
It's kind of 5 games in one. It's a huge undertaking.
The new tech and the new aesthetics for the new looks bring you closer to the characters that you love, and we're just getting started.
The fidelity of the gameplay experience is much richer.
We are making cinematics that push the boundary of what we can do to tell stories.
We want this dynamic world. We want things to feel alive.
I'm really looking forward to being able to expand the world of Overwatch for our players.
Ufa.
We're really trying to tell this epic story.
In order to make a game great, it takes time, energy.
Parece que tem foco bem grande no single player, no co-op, né?
An incredibly professional team of designers and artists and engineers.
We just love bringing this world to you guys. So many cool characters. It's just a blast working on it.
Our goal is for Overwatch 2 to be the worthy successor to the first game, to be the next evolution, and to be a true sequel.
We have big plans, so thank you for sticking with us.
We're gonna cross the finish line, and I know it's gonna be awesome.
I hope people just end up loving playing it over and over.
That's what we want to try and capture. I'm jumping in, I'm playing, let's go be heroes.
Animei valendo. E olha que eu não tenho histórico com Overwatch.
Eu queria que ele tivesse falado mais como é que vai funcionar esse multiplayer, tá ligado? Que ele disse que a galera que tá no 1 não vai precisar comprar o 2 pra continuar jogando competitivo. E tipo, isso aí tá muito confuso.
É verdade.
Agora vai ser o Diablo 2 Deep Dive e encerra por hoje.
Talvez seja tipo, os modos que vão permanecer iguais que vai dar pra jogar.
Talvez. Sim, é isso, galera, que tá assistindo a gente. Vai ter agora o Deep Dive do Diablo 2. E são 50 minutos mais ou menos, e aí 10h30 encerra o primeiro dia.
Boa, povo. Obrigado por estar conosco mais uma vez. Rafa, eu vou passar ali no pit stop, já volto.
Eu vou também. Quer dizer, eu te espero tu voltar.
Vai, que bela canção, hein? Ai, peraí, agora foi. Deixa eu ler aqui.
Mr. Llama.
Alright, we're gonna watch the video sent to us.
Não conheço.
Wait, we got Kane back? Oh, it's 2. It's 2. It's Diablo 2 Remastered. It's Diablo 2 Remastered. Come on. Come on. Show it to me.
Show it to me.
There we go. I knew it was there somewhere. Somewhere out there I knew. Somewhere out there. Yo, sick. Ooh, love the campfire. Oh, that multi-shot looks awesome. Wow.
Eu achei que ele tá mais empolgado. Acho que a gente ficou mais empolgado aqui, viu, Rafa?
Pois é.
A tiazona do Overwatch tava mais empolgada.
Calma, não vamos exagerar.
And console, okay.
Tá, pit stop.
All
I'll
right.
be back.
Vai.
That'll be interesting. Oh, that leap attack was awesome. Oh. Oh, the Diablo fight is gorgeous.
Not even death.
Oh, resurrected. Let's go! Come on!
So that was super exciting. I'm Mr. LaMessi. I am a Twitch streamer. I have been playing Diablo 2 for 20 years, streaming it for 6 years. I probably have over 25,000 hours in this game and just absolutely love it. So seeing the remaster happen, I have to just, of course, ask a very first high-level question. Why the D2 remaster right now?
Well, Diablo 2 is a very special game to Blizzard, as many of you well know, and Diablo 2 also had its 20th year anniversary. So with that, we really wanted to stay true to what that authentic experience was for Diablo 2 and bring it to the current audience and improve it for the existing audience and invite new people to experience it for the first time. It's also good learning opportunities too for us, especially when we're partnering up with Vicarious Visions now to work on a remaster projects like this together.
So it's been a great partnership. We've actually worked with Blizzard for a while now, a couple years, even starting with some Battle.net integration type things. We just finished Tony Hawk Remaster. Before that, we did Crash Bandicoot Remasters, and it just seemed like a perfect match for us to work together.
It was a shock to my system to first to come in and then see that it's a remaster trailer. Was not expecting that. But then to see the complete shift in the design and the art and everything, and I'd really love to hear more about how you came up with the process for how you want to remaster the look of it, right? How you wanted it to visually exist. And I'd love to bring in Chris Amaral to talk about some of that. Chris, can you discuss a little bit of the philosophy and the design decisions around this remaster?
So luckily we had a ton of good inspiration from the original D2 art. Our primary focus is always nostalgia, right? We want to make sure we focus on getting this right and deliver an authentic experience.
A gente perguntou quem é esse Delama SC. Ele é um streamer do Twitch e ele tem mais de 25 mil horas em Diablo 2.
And then reinforce that emotional connection
in Diablo
from the original game. But then we came up with like a 70-30 visual guide.
Eu achando
1000 horas.
Basically the classic.
Com 200 e tantas horas de Destiny, achando que eu tinha muita. Meu Deus do céu, e ele só ficou empolgado daquele jeito, não pode. Ele deve ter pensado, eu não aguento mais, eu tenho 25 horas.
Ou então ele já tava tipo assim, meu Deus do céu. Não, vou ter que começar do zero agora. Minha vez de ir no pit stop, já volto.
I also noticed that the game was 3D, and can you talk a little bit about the discussion or how you moved and some challenges moving from 2D to 3D?
Well, I mean, evolving from a 2D sprite game, like a 2D image game, to a 3D is very challenging. We basically had to write a complete new PBR renderer, so a physically based renderer on top of the old game logic. It's difficult because you're dealing with models versus 2D sprites, where you have to basically write. You have dynamic lighting, you have dynamic VFX, like a lot of that is an additional system that we have to work out on our end.
So the follow-up to that question, I suppose, is I wasn't able to see any items when I was watching that trailer. Are all of the items also going to be remastered? All of the gems, all of every single piece of this? And what sorts of flavor did you decide to add to that artwork?
So everything is being redone. So we remodeled everything because everything has to drop in the game. So you have your icon art, and then you have your 3D space art that flips, right? So we had to basically model everything. And as far as the inspiration, we actually were inspired by some original documentation that we found from Blizzard North, where there was a huge Word doc of like where the original artists pulled inspiration from. So a lot of that was like very like historical landmarks, locations, and very very much real world referencing. So that was kind of where we kind of pulled our inspiration as well. We wanted that functional design that the original art had. Everything felt like it was believable, and that detail really does help to give it some realistic context and makes you feel more immersed in the game. Like it makes you feel like you're part of this world when you can see every little buckle and strap.
I remember when we went into the tavern and there was garlic hanging from a beam, and we're all like, what's the garlic? And this is all full 3D everything, and then they're like, oh yeah, there was garlic in the old game. We go back and it's like 4 white sprites, and you're like, holy cow, yeah, garlic, and there's hams hanging and everything. So it was really cool to see it almost for the first time.
And it's funny because original SD, like it was made in all 3D. So we actually came across a bunch of screenshots that were a different camera. Like it wasn't the isometric camera. It was like either marketing art or something else, or maybe just exploration. But there was shots of that garlic in the original art. You could never really see it in the pixel art, but it was there. So it was
Dá pra ver, tipo, eles estão falando agora de alho que tinham pendurado em algum lugar e ninguém nunca viu que tinha.
Very grand with this art.
I'm not gonna lie, I never knew that they had garlic hanging in there. I mean, maybe a couple white sprites. I thought they were maybe candles. Who knows? No clue. But that makes me excited to go look around now and just like explore all of the areas in the game, just to look at the new detailed art and see what was.
Well, you see it now too, because also we have the one new feature for the art on the art side of things is a zoom camera. So it'll help you get in there and look at all the details. Like it was something that I really felt strongly that like a lot of ARPGs that come out now all have a zoom feature. This will really get you up and close and personal with like your armor, your weapons, like everything, the runes.
Another way to look at it too is our legacy toggle feature, where you can flip back between the old visuals of the game and our current visuals. It's not even just a simple art swap. It is really the old game running underneath, because like Chris was mentioning, our new art engine our graphics engine is running on top of the game, and it's mimicking what is running underneath. It's still following all the same data and rules and timings of everything. So we are still being true to that 25 frames per second of what the game is underneath, but rendering it in a way that has more frames per second.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that specifically, because when I go into Diablo 2, I'm thinking,
o nome Blizzard tá fazendo jus, viu? Vai fazer 48 horas que não para de nevar aqui.
The game is built on that. My faster casting,
não para,
bicho. Recovery, all of this stuff is built on 25 FPS. So how do you create a game that's 60 FPS?
So all of the logic and how the game talks with the server and everything like that runs on that cycle, and that hasn't changed. So we still have benchmarks in all of our content. Say for animations of when a hit frame occurs, how long it can recover, and all of that. That all matches exactly. Now it can run at a faster frame rate, and so modern games run on time, not frames. So we've done that, but all of the logic still runs on those same things. So you can wait for your breaks to occur. All of those things still happen at the exact same, and that was through no small effort. But it's super important, right? Because even if you can't see it right away, you feel it when it's different. We've done that on lots of areas. So for example, the original game only had so many sprites to render your rotation. So you'd have your character and they're rendered out at so many angles, and the monsters even less. But you could actually walk at greater directions, right? You have, I think it was 64 different squares around you that you would path to, and you'd have feet sliding we've increased that, so now there's more granularity. Obviously it's 3D, your character can run straight, but underneath the hood, I mean, this is a game made back when the inspiration was tabletop games, and so the game is a grid, so it still respects that grid, right? Like on the controller will still allow you to move small amounts because you push the stick a little bit, but it's still, you're either in a run state or a walk state, stamina still a thing, you're still on a grid. Like all of that logic, once again, is all being driven
todo sentido, porque você... Todo jogo é feito em cima disso, né?
Rob was mentioning animation. Animation is also like, it was very challenging because, you know, you only had a few of the frame counts basically to make that animation. So it wasn't like a modern game where you have tons of different keys to make it very fluid animation. We had to really like maintain that timing, that pace. The posing was a big focus for us too. We wanted to get those iconic poses for each character, and then just align that silhouette.
So continuing the talk of visuals, I want to talk about characters, cosmetics, how they look. Because I know something that I love with Diablo 2 is just putting on, you know, a scale mail, putting on a full plate mail, putting on a sacred armor, and seeing the character like have the different change and all of that. But some things still don't like reflect over in the color of it or whatnot, right? Some do, some don't. Is there going to be changes there, or is it just enhancing all of those visuals and making them just look even cooler?
So our goal was to basically be one-to-one with parity with the original game. So we built every piece of armor that was in the original game and is now in the remastered version. The only difference we did is with the icon items. So we actually now we have a more connected visual with the icon and the item that drops in the game, where before you had different visuals. That's really the only thing we pushed on as far as modernization.
Yeah, so like shields or weapons, a lot of the unique items that you find in the game had special kind of icon arts, right? And that is something we're actually going to be showing on your character in the new visuals.
That definitely excites me. I think that's something a lot of people would love to see, you know, a lance guard and have the cool stuff actually on their character there.
It will be the same model you see on those icons.
Are we going to see remastering of the cinematics in the game?
Yes.
Yes, we are. Yep, the entire full 28 minutes or whatever is going to be all remastered with new high fidelity art. It's going to look amazing, by the way. So
will the sound in those also be remastered, and any other sound in the game be remastered?
All of the audio has been remastered, as well as we've added additional surround sound features. There's more ambient, there's more effects going on. It's just a richer experience if you want to play with your, full setup. However, we have to use that measured hand as well with audio. There's just a lot of very, very iconic sounds that we really couldn't change, right? Like if you put a skull into your inventory, that pop noise, we really couldn't.
Don't change my skull sound.
Exactly, right? So yeah, so there are certain things you're gonna, you'll hear, for like your footsteps running will have some variety. When the rain kicks in, it's going to have a lot more depth. When you go to the jungle, you'll hear a lot more life in those trees. But yeah, there's just some sounds we couldn't mess with, right?
With Blizzard, when we're creating new games, one of our design philosophies is to what we call find the fun. And when we were looking at D2 again, we very much felt like the fun is still there. So it's actually one of our core pillars for Diablo 2 Resurrected specifically was to keep the fun and keep it at its core. And because of that, we're looking at it more as a remaster at that point, and like what can we do,
da reação
based on what the community
de muitas coisas que rolou nesse BLIZZCon é que podia ter sido e-mail.
I think also we want to thank
dizendo que tipo era tudo bem se não fizesse BLIZZCon esse ano.
We want to preserve that game and the structure of that game as much as we can. And if we,
Por mim, tipo, não faz diferença nenhuma. É massa, é entretenimento pra gente.
So I think that was the reason why we chose this.
Speaking, from my experience or from some of my community's experience and the discussions
União
we've
das
had,
pessoas
we definitely
assistindo e
felt
comentando.
like
Agora no chat só tá rolando
with Diablo
sobre
2
o
a
alho. A galera só tá
remaster
falando
just
do
seemed
danado
like the
do
way
alho.
to go because there's so many, like you said, there's so many of
Acho que
those
tu tava
tiny
no banheiro,
details
Rafa, sei
within
lá,
the
na hora do
game
alho. Tu não viu o
that
alho não, né?
create
Não.
Tem uns
overall when you add them up,
sprites
create such a big
que
part of the
era alho
experience of the
pendurado em
game.
várias partes
And
de alguns
remaking
cenários.
that into a new
E
game
ninguém nunca sabia que era um
could be
alho.
a
Quando eles estavam
challenge
fazendo
and
o
could
remaster
also
dos sprites e tal,
be a
descobriram que
challenge
tinha
in
uns trecos de
keeping
alho.
the
Aí eles
fun
deram
of the
bem
game in
foco.
that way. I kind
Olha,
of look
galera,
at it
alho.
a little bit like
Aí o cara,
StarCraft Cold War,
eu
which
realmente
also
nunca
had a
tinha visto esse
remaster.
alho, não. Eram uns
And
pontinhos
how it's
brancos
like
só.
a lot of the pathing bugs and the, you know, duds from the reavers and all of these things in the game that were kind of awful are what make the game beautiful and what make the game super balanced. And if you were to go and remake it and remove some of those issues, it would change how the whole entire game plays. And so I felt like with Diablo 2, that's kind of the same idea, right? You got to keep some of those difficult details because then it ends up creating, you know, the overall experience that we all know and love.
Yeah, we also felt that, like, you know, for a game during its time back in 2000, you know, based on limitations or everyone was still looking at strategy guides or just limited internet, it led to that kind of typical game design you see where there was a lot of mystery, discovery. So we felt like that was another part of, like, you know, part of keeping the fun, which was to maintain that discovery of the game as well.
So speaking to maintaining and possibly changing, what are the pieces that did end up staying the same, or if it's easier to explain the other way, what are the pieces that were really just remastered to life?
So at its
Warcraft
core,
3,
No quê?
we wanted to still be
Muita,
the same.
como teve
So,
alguma coisa que deu muito,
right
alguma
away,
coisa foi muito
things
errada
like
no
the
remaster
balance, the
do
monsters you see on
Warcraft
the,
3, porque
spawn rates,
se o
item
Diablo
drops and
2
things
tá
like that
um
are
absurdo
the
assim,
same.
que era um jogo todo de
And what we're
sprites.
doing is trying to take
Mas pelo que eu saiba,
any of the
o
rough
Warcraft
edges you
3 não
see,
foi outsourced. Enquanto o Diablo 2 eles mandaram pra Vicarious Visions, né? Outra empresa, outro estúdio fazer.
Sim, mas isso que eu tô dizendo,
the
foi
arts,
tanta
improving the arts as well.
falha
all
de
these kinds of
direção e
things
de
you come to
correria
know
e de
from a
tudo que um
remaster,
jogo
but still maintaining
todo em
very
3D.
E a Vicarious Visions sabe que isso é uma chance de ouro, porque eles podem ser o go-to pra qualquer remaster da Blizzard, se eles fizerem um bom trabalho agora. Eles ganham um cliente.
O cliente não, né? Que eles foram comprados, né?
Ah, é verdade, pela Activision Blizzard, é verdade.
Things like a shared stash.
Aí você vê o Warcraft 3 que já é todo em 3D, é muito mais fácil de você atualizar do que sprites e
we felt was the right
deu no
choice
que deu.
when it
Wait,
came
we have a shared stash?
We have a shared stash.
Yeah, we have a shared stash.
Oh, thank God.
Now the way that the shared stash works is there are rules, right? You can't have your ladder characters mixing a stash with a non-ladder character.
David Devbrick tava tweetando agora há pouco sobre isso aí, dizendo que acha que foi uma boa mudança.
Demais, animal, muito
use
prático.
your online.
Olha
But
de
for the most
quem ali.
part, we're like, people do this anyway with a mule
stay
character,
away,
so it's
Elisa.
okay to give them this feature.
That is like
Animal.
the greatest feature that you can
Animal.
add.
Prático
Because
demais.
there's nothing worse than
Ficar jogando as
opening
coisas
up
no
the
chão.
game, going in, dropping all your GG items to mule them over because you've run out of space, and then not being able to log back in, or the game's not created, or it didn't perm in time, and losing all of your gear, or trying to find someone to help you transfer your gear over, because, oh my gosh, a shared stash is amazing. Thank you so much. That's such a help.
Like I said, maintaining the core was a thing, but the
Esse
other
cara tá muito
aspect of
doido.
it
Esse
was
aí.
to see
Ele mal
where we
pisca
can
pra ele só tá
improve, right?
velho.
O nome dele...
One of them,
Peraí, tá falando de
because
quem?
we saw it as a very common
Do Sr. Lama?
concern, especially around
Não,
muling,
não.
which people
Porque
have
o cara
worked
que
around.
tem o nome Sr. Lama, eu não espero nada de...
Another example
Qual é o
is
seu
São.
Lama? Eu não vi qual é o seu Lama.
É o streamer, meu filho. É
Ah,
o que tá
não,
fazendo
o
as
Lama não, o
perguntas.
Lama tá tranquilo. É o cantor do System of a Down, esse aí.
Ah, o Sérgio.
O
Sérgio tá aqui, ó.
You know, we're trying to integrate the menu buttons and the stamina bars closer together within the HUD, so it's built a little bit cleaner. And naturally with reimagining a UI, we have some liberties to add a few things. So going back to the information I was talking about, a big thing we're doing on the character screen is we're adding an advanced stats screen as well. So we're going to be showing you all the information you get from items as well. So you don't have to do that kind of math with like looking at each of your items and calculating how much magic find you have, for example. It'll all be like summarized right there for you.
Something that we've seen already in a lot of mods where they've gone ahead and taken that information and created a little screen. So that's really nice to see. that you guys are implementing that as well. Because yeah, I don't think anybody likes sitting down and counting up the magic find of every specific item, you know, and all of their charms and all of everything to figure out what is the number, how much do I have.
We've also added auto gold, so you can opt in. It is a feature you can turn off, which is one of the things.
Graças a Deus, você pega automaticamente o ouro. Não precisa clicar em cima de cada quantia.
But you can also keep it off. This was actually something that we started looking into when we were adding controller
Graças
support.
a Deus.
There's a lot of paths that we could have taken with
A
controller
galera
support.
continua no alho ali. Garlic
Obviously for
reformed.
controllers on a console, which we're coming out on, but allowing you to just plug a controller in for accessibility reasons. For that might be the way you want to play, but it's a PC first experience. Like for example, there's still an inventory grid. There's still inventory Tetris. That's core to what Diablo 2 is, right? Taking that away, it starts to become something different.
And I love that. I think that's the perfect way to really introduce it, because you're going to have that split in the community. You're going to have half the people who say, just give me auto gold. It's 2020. I don't want to worry about having to pick up every individual gold stack. But then you're going to have the opposite side of purists who go, don't touch this. Like, that completely changes my game experience. And, you know, if I'm speedrunning through the game or playing through whatever,
Escolhas.
I want to be able to
Essa é a resposta para
go
tudo.
over and
Você
pick up
deve
the gold stack
poder
and take
ter a
that
opção de
time,
fazer o
and
que
that's more
quiser.
part of the Diablo
A galera
2
já
experience.
botou ali, por
I
favor,
want to jump back to
auto
features
garlic pickup.
in a second. But before we do, you just brought up console play, and I feel like we have to jump into console, the decision for console, and how you're gonna make that work. You already talked a little bit about like auto gold, having that to be a little more accessible, but when I think of Diablo 2, I think of a mouse going and clicking everywhere. And how does this work on a console?
To say it wasn't a challenge. For the most part, the game thinks you're still using a keyboard and mouse with a controller. That was almost a rule we kept, that helped keep us on the rails, because we didn't want to be sacrificing once again that authentic experience.
O Blizzard Arcade Collection vai estar disponível como standalone só nos consoles. $20 aqui.
Nossa senhora.
Salgadinho, né? Salgadinho.
And play. And a lot of those people are used to, just more modern titles that could use a controller. Also, from an accessibility of just allowing you to plug in a controller, helps for many other people to get to enjoy the game. The biggest thing I think that the two big things we'll say. One is you're changing the way you play the game from being kind of an eye in the sky and telling your hero what to do by clicking on areas to actually being your character and directing them. So pathfinding is gone, right? Because you're doing the pathfinding and things like that, which creates some very interesting things. For example, the sorceress's teleport is meant to teleport to wherever you click. So in that area, when you're playing on the console, we will have a kind of a default distance that you will teleport to. Whereas on the PC, you can click wherever you want. Same with Barbarian's Leap, although that one's interesting because it levels. Challenge, like, I'm a necromancer and I need to target an item on the ground that has a certain keyword. It's working so far, but you guys will be the ultimate judge of that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of talks back and forth, play testing and things like that. A big challenge we had too was categorizing, all those 300 character skills, to see how each of them really play, to see what challenges there were. And yeah, like Rob mentions, the Necromancer Iron Golem is a favorite of ours to continuously talk about because of the various ways it can target. Also, like a Sorcerer's Telekinesis is another example.
Watching the trailer, we see the assassin and druid at the campfire. We see a druid casting tornado. I have to ask though, even still, this includes Lord of Destruction, right? This is going to be a full encompassing remaster and not just classic or just a piece?
That's correct. Yeah, we are going to be including both the base Diablo 2
Meu amigo, que sobrancelhas agressivas!
And we're even keeping the
armor.
mode of playing non-expansion character as well, right? So you could still play a classic barbarian, for example, and things like that.
Okay, awesome. Because that was something
E a barba dele tá tão bem feita que parece que foi colada assim, sabe? Tipo, olha a barba do streamer, olha a barba do streamer assim, que é uma barba verdadeira, meio assim, toda feiona. A do cara tá... Ele foi no barbeiro, deu uma tapa na gostosa.
It's still a part of the game, and it still leads to interesting ways.
Meu amigo.
A lot of it's even data driven too, so like a lot of the reasons to keep it were pretty clear to us. Let's make sure we're not taking something away from the game master.
I'd love to go ahead and start talking about some other features, or continue talking
Parece que ele
about some of the
colou
other
ela ali.
features that you had mentioned before, because hearing each of these already has gotten me so excited for this game. What are some other little things that you felt could be changed? Would it change the whole flow of the game, but just improve it?
One thing we're looking into is making it easier to interact with your stash, so having quick keys to move to your stash.
Eu não consigo, olha essa barba!
Dragging the mouse to every time you want to move something in your stash. Other things we're looking at as well are like an item comparison tooltip, so in case you're looking at some other item, you can
Agora o cara de baixo, que tá na direita, embaixo, assim, na quina de baixo na direita, parece mais velho o ator naquele filme que fez o Dragon Ball Evolution. Não esse. Hã?
Taika Waititi?
Mas tipo, com a roupa, o cabelo. Ele podia estar no Dragon Ball Evolution 2, 30 anos depois.
Recommending things like that actually was more confusing to people. So you hold shift and it's like, here's what you got equipped, here's what it is.
I think that's the great way to do it with Diablo 2, because I agree. I mean, I think that's one of the best parts about Diablo 2. The items are so fantastic, so unique in their own design, that it would be near impossible to have a tooltip that could actually recommend one or the other, you know, because it's all so unique to every situation and character and skill build and everything.
We added 5 more languages, so that's a feature to a lot of people who speak those other languages. The whole front end is pretty much modernized now, so your character is much bigger front and center right in the beginning, and you'll have a backdrop of whatever act you're in. So that's all been streamlined. You can still, play online or offline, but that flow has been improved.
So what are your favorite changes that each of you have?
Tá vendo? Dragon Ball Evolution ali embaixo.
There's a lot of fun. It's fun to see a lot of the art come to life with our new visuals. So for me, one of the things I've been waiting for since first starting on this game was to see that character creation campfire scene come to life in our new arts, and I'm really happy to see how far it's progressed. And
Eu acho que esse evento teria sido 1 milhão de vezes melhor se não tivesse tido os leaks, tá ligado? Tipo, imagina se a gente tivesse entrado aqui sem saber de Diablo 2. Eles têm que resolver isso. Tipo, toda empresa, na verdade. Leaks meio que estragam esses eventos.
And it's basically this large screen where we have like a diorama of each.
Mas ao mesmo tempo, na época da internet, é difícil manter qualquer coisa em segredo.
Mas às vezes também, talvez anunciar antes, resolva, né?
Então, mas talvez. Mas a parte legal do evento é a surpresa, sabe?
Por exemplo, Starfield foi anunciado há, sei lá, 2 anos. A gente sabe que está sendo feito, não saiu mais nada, saiu uma screen horrorosa.
Elden Ring.
Just the way that the
termina criando um hype também, por exemplo, o Elden Ring é perfeito. Mostraram um trailer e tal, não mostraram mais nada. Quando sair um gameplay, um trailer novo que seja, o mundo cai, a internet cai. Igual.
É verdade, porque tem isso também. No caso da BlizzCon, não, porque a BlizzCon a gente sabe que vão mostrar os jogos da Blizzard, mas tipo, imagina, tipo, todo evento, desde o Game Awards vamos ver mais de The Elden Ring, nada acontece. Aí fica subindo o hype, aí é 3. Deve ter coisa de Elden Ring ou de Silent Hill. Pode não ter dos dois, aí, meu Deus do céu.
With the sprites, with 3D models built into sprites, was not a true real-time lighting system. So because we're pushing that with a 3D graphics engine running on top of the game and getting actual 3D lighting inside of those kinds of caverns and corridors makes for a very interesting experience now, because it just feels more immersive with having light react around you like that.
Yeah, I would definitely say, I mean, I've only seen the trailer piece you sent me, but even from that, just seeing like down in the tunnels or the sewers, or any of those like you said, cavern dungeonous zones. The lighting, it was darker and brighter, and then things like the skeletons with the fire, it just had like this different, I agree, creepier feel. So I haven't seen much more than, or anything more than you guys showed me, but there was definitely a different feel to the game, and I loved the fire the most, I think. Just
Era
watching,
isso que eu ia
like,
dizer.
the Sorceress Meteor
Tá
was,
animal.
like,
Tá
gorgeous.
absurdo.
Fire and lightning, once we got all
Mas-
the effects up and running, that was definitely a
Não tá
couple
com
of times where we
feeling
would be just in a review and we're like,
roots
like,
do
and
Diablo 2,
10 minutes
sabe?
would
E
go
assim,
by and we're like, oh, crap,
Diablo
we
1 e
had a
Diablo
meeting, we're
2
just playing now.
hoje ainda você pode jogar os
Another
dois e ser
thing that
maravilhoso.
kind of goes without saying
O problema são essas
that
coisas de conseguir
just
jogar
because
junto,
it's
co-op e tal.
parity, but
Que dá um pouco mais de
eight-player
trabalho, essa coisa
multiplayer,
dos itens.
that just works,
De
but,
guardar, de trocar.
once again, it was tricky to get that going.
Mas
So,
o 1
with
e o 2 são
multiplayer,
atemporais pra mim.
Are there going to be
Vai ser animal
any
esse aí, vai, mas não vai
changes,
ser,
any
claramente não é o
differences
mesmo feeling do
in there from PvP to
Uma
trading
vez, né?
to how players interact, units blocking each other, I mean, all sorts of stuff.
So with multiplayer, we want to keep all the features you've known and loved there. So PvP will still be there down to like opening the party window and engaging hostility. Trading is still going to function the same as you know. You can go into games, trade items, or talk in chat channels and things like that. Areas of improvement though, like I said, going back to my mentioning of reimagining a lot of the UI, improvements to the Battlenet lobby. So we're trying to look at some things like improving like how you browse server games. Like so when you're looking at a game to join and typing passwords and things like that, that's the kind of area we're trying to see how we could smooth out in ways like making sure you can browse normal games, nightmare games, and hell games, even though you've graduated to the higher difficulty. I'm sure you've known that.
There's nothing worse than accidentally killing Bale in Nightmare when you're trying to do Nightmare Bale runs and you're like, I can't find any of the games anymore for Nightmare Bale runs.
But you can if you log into a separate character.
Right, you go to a separate character and then look at
that was kind of our logic, right? Since there are workarounds there, that made it easier for us to make the decision of allowing some of those things. Another change is also looking into reducing ladder seasons overall. So right now ladder seasons in Diablo 2 are 6 months, and we're looking at reducing that as well to help have more engagement and kind of drive more incentives too. 6 months is a long time, and we're looking into like if we make it shorter, we could probably have greater beats throughout the year, as well as seeing people strive harder for getting like that to that level 99, right?
So is there going to be any reward change on that, or will it just simply be the same standard? You get to 99, you're 99 on that leaderboard, and I mean that's a giant reward in itself, but I don't know if there's any other piece go up on the Battle.net website or something.
We're not looking into adding anything beyond what the game really did, but in some ways there will be some things that kind of come out of because of what we changed. So we have the ladder, the leaderboard, right, where you can see each class going to level 99. There are easier ways to filter through that. And we're also looking into saving that, right? So you can always look back to previous seasons as well. So in a way, we're creating that kind of legacy now that has kind of been dropped from the past. So that's one advantage, is your names could be there.
Faltam 14 minutos, de acordo com o schedule aqui.
Podiam falar uma coisinha de Diablo Immortal, né?
Keep it there as like a forever, like this.
Deixa eu ver se tem alguma coisa que rolou.
Like that's when I got my 89. Because I know a lot of people like to go and reflect kind of.
Mostraram no canal do Diablo, teve mais cedo Diablo Immortal Alpha and Beyond.
Pois é, sabia a data.
Esse deep dive aí tá rolando ao vivo, né? Aqui e no canal do Diablo, tipo, é a primeira vez que tá todo mundo vendo isso.
Anything different with like character names then, if that's the case?
Oh, yeah. So this was one that we talked about for a very, very long time. So because we are moving to global servers and we have cross progression, we will allow duplicate names.
Amanhã eu acho que eu vou assistir 5 e 5 daqui, 7 e 5 daí.
platforms.
A galera do Critical Role, que é encabeçado pelo Matt Mercer, vai jogar uma campanha de Diablo, de RPG online. Online assim, ao vivo. Ao vivo não, provavelmente foi gravado, mas 2 horinhas só. Acho que eu vou assistir amanhã. Gosto muito de RPG de mesa, né?
7 da noite, é?
7 e 5 da noite daí começa. Horário de Brasília.
Rob touched on it a little bit, but another mention there was going to global servers as well. So this is a new thing we're doing where the concept of US West, US East, Asia regions, and EU are no longer going to be a thing in terms of like being on separated servers. So now for the push for a global play with Diablo 2, you can now be able to join across people around the world.
I think that's a fantastic change. That's always been one of the like saddest parts is like they're on EU and I'm on, you know, US East and then my other friend's on US West and it's like, how do we get us all together, you know? Like, okay, somebody has to make a sacrifice there. And so that seems like a really positive change. So far you guys are killing it. I'm loving absolutely. I just want to say like I'm loving all of the changes and all of the decisions that have been made. It feels like you're really respecting the integrity of the game, but really bringing in a lot of that quality of life because Diablo 2 just had some of those pain points like muling and separate servers and all of that. So I just want to throw that out there really quick.
There's a lot of love and care going on into this. Like we're very passionate about Diablo 2, you know. I can even give you a little anecdote of when I started on the team. I was asking around too. Naturally, as a designer, I want to know as much as possible about this game in order to make good decisions on a remaster. So I asked around like what kind of files and leftover archives do we have from before from Blizzard North, and I was told I was given some, and I was told that was it, which I quickly disbelieved because I like to just do my own little digging arounds to find out things. So I dug around a lot in a lot of archives, and I looked around in different teams as well, because naturally a game from 20 years ago, people have moved on different teams, and like where has data moved around across our other games across Blizzard. So it was within folders, I like to say, that I found a lot of old source files from Diablo 2. A lot of things like within folders of saying stuff we should archive, and there was a lot of stuff to archive indeed, because there were a lot of things like we're talking like model source files, old tools that Blizzard North used to create like the sprites and things like that. All these things I spent months and months organizing and communicate that out to the team and help getting Blizzard library team and other people to help out too, to help share as much information as possible, which helps a lot with when we're adapting some of these models and whatnot and making new art out of it, because you know sometimes those pixels aren't good enough, and if we have some kind of source model to look at, if we have it, now we can make even closer decisions.
On that day when he found that, I think that really helped me greatly. Like we sent all of that imagery, even the models. I think we sent over to the outsource teams and different art teams, which they used as like a stepping stone. The only piece of art we actually reused one-to-one were Tyrael's wings. So we actually took the Tyrael wings from the old Max file and then just repurposed that for ours. Like we did very little work, very little modernization of that. We just made it work. But yeah, we did follow a lot of the rules that the old game actually used. For like another example is the succubus, in which I think the old Blizzard North model, they reused the assassin mesh for the body, and we did the same thing. We use our assassin mesh for the succubus.
Yeah, a lot of fun discoveries that we're actually kind of making the same decisions on in interesting ways. Another example too, like is because we found a lot of stuff. There's a lot of old texture files for some environments on the game. So another example is like the walls you see in the Act 2 tombs. With those kinds of like paintings on them are the same textures we're using, because we found the source files for those.
And the symbology we have questions on. We always like jump into that archive, try to find some kind of source or reference or something, and we just reuse it as much as possible. We want this to be as true as possible.
That could even carry over to the cinematics too, you know, like a lot of the cinematics cover the same locations. Think of like Tal Rasha's tomb with Baal in front of it, and there's all those ruins going on behind him. Finding sources like that to try to match as much as possible was a goal, and I'm glad to say we did find those kinds of things and are matching it very well. So it's helping our cinematics too.
There was even concepts we repurposed. Like we found a couple concepts that were amazing from 20 years ago. The Bloodhawk and the Bloodhawk nest, and we used that completely to rebuild our new asset.
I mean, that's fascinating. I feel like I could just sit here for hours and hours, days, as you guys talk through every single thing you found in the source files.
I could too. I'm still organizing it to this day. I still could find something that could work out. As I put it, I'm very meticulous with this stuff because I love it so much. You know, I'm putting like categorizing everything. Like this is everything I found on War Eve. This is everything I found on the greater mummy monster or Baal or something. And then if Chris comes to me and needs help with like some kind of way of identifying what parts of the creatures are or something, I even go through lengths of like seeing if I could open up those models and actually re-rendering them out in a way that we could actually see it in higher detail and like, you know, see like what, like, oh, the greater mummy is showing like part of his bone on his knee, so we should try to match that or something like that. And there's a lot of interesting stories and references that we actually used to create the new art by re-rendering models out to see everything.
Yeah, it was literally like video game archaeology, and even learning how parts of D1 were made, parts of the code that were commented out. Totally geek out on just all of the, you know, because it's a game that we all kind of grew up in, and a lot of us got into the games industry because of these types of games, and this game in particular, right? Like, and so it's almost like we're treating it like a classic car, right? Like, okay, it probably shouldn't run on leaded gas anymore, but you really can't change it, right? You just got to make it, you know, good enough, even better, you know, than they remember, and good for another 20 years.
Comendo o que aí que engajou, hein? É porque não ofereceu, porque eu queria Fini agora, viu?
Especially within the time span of when it came, like Diablo 1, you know, was 1996 and Diablo 2, 2000. A lot of things carried over throughout development. So going back to see Diablo 1 and what it's like also helped us make decisions. Even some of the arts too, because like we discovered certain things we didn't even realize before until later down the line. Like an example is in the Chaos Sanctuary, you see a lot of statues with these black knights, and those are actually the same Chaos Knights you see in Diablo 1. So like sometimes some of the things I find even source files from Diablo 1 were useful for us for reference, so we can make the new statues and things like that.
Even the sorcerer and the Act 3 hireling shared very similar models. Like it was just an addition helmet or a little bit of detail on the chest, but that was really the difference.
You guys need to do a just like developer archaeology discussion at some point where you just sit down and talk through all of this, because this is like the most fascinating stuff I've heard. I mean, I've played so much Diablo 2 that I know so many intricacies of the game, but like when there's like more to be discovered, it's like, oh man, I'm like itching to know. So I would love to do it.
The funny thing is, like, you know, going back to our like core philosophies on the game, like, you know, we wanted to keep discovery and the mystery and stuff. Because you keep discovering things all the time when you play Diablo 2, like all these little hidden rules and informations. It kind of carries that fascination over through development as well. Like we find a lot of things in the code, design documents, and models, things like that, that were really fascinating to see, like how they were made. And I learned something new every day on the projects.
One thing, shifting back to the online play here. I know there's definitely going to be questions around security.
25.000
How
horas.
are we
Tem certeza foi 25
duping?
horas.
How are we handling bots? How are we handling...
25.000 horas. Vamos dizer que...
Ele diz que faz 20 anos que ele joga e faz 6 anos que ele streama.
25.000 horas.
Mesmo assim, é mais de 1.000 horas por ano. Desde que lançou.
Quer dizer, eu fui tentar um número saudável aqui de 5 horas de jogatina por dia. Saudável assim, né?
Não, se o cara é streamer, mas assim, é verdade, porque mesmo que o cara seja streamer, ficar jogando um jogo durante 6 anos é complicado. Apesar que tem muito streamer aí, tem um cara que eu assisto, Tauli, que ele joga 8 horas de World of Warcraft todo dia.
Nossa senhora.
Mas eu tenho pra mim que World of Warcraft tem mais conteúdo do que Diablo 2.
Tem, mas não tenha dúvida.
you won't be
Então,
bothered.
porque tá aí há 13 anos recebendo
There's a
updates.
reason why
Se
we
ele
praticamente todo ano.
5 horas por
quarantined away
dia,
from online.
são
I mean,
quase
yeah, we have a
14
server
anos
team
jogando sem parar
working
pra
on
chegar
it, and these
nisso.
are some of their
bicho.
efforts, right? We want
Não,
to
ele disse que tá jogando há 20 anos Diablo 2.
Meu Deus do
as much as
céu.
possible. There's a lot of strides happening in the back end of things.
So, I'm excited to play this game, and I'm sure a lot of other people are very excited. How can we sign up for this closed beta, and when will this game
Esse
be?
fone dele é massa.
Actually, we will be doing a technical alpha, and you can sign up on our webpage today for future waves of invites. As for the game itself, it will be releasing 2021.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the remastering team.
Vai sair
right
nesse
here.
ano,
I
né? Então,
absolutely am blown away by how much effort and how much passion you guys are putting into this game.
Não demora muito não, viu? Bota aí de junho a
I've loved
outubro.
Diablo 2 for 20 years,
Julho, outubro.
and I never thought that the game could get better. But I think you guys are respecting the integrity while upgrading and adding and improving.
Em
And I
novembro
think this
tem
is going
COD,
to
eles não vão
overall just
concorrer com o jogo da...
better the game.
da mesma
So
produtora.
thank you guys so much. I appreciate you having me on and for all of the hard work you've done.
Awesome, thank you. I mean, your praise means the world to us. I mean, you and people like you who keep the game going for 20 years. Like that's, if you guys didn't do that, this might not be happening, right? We see the passion in what you do, in what your colleagues do. Like, so thank you even more. And thanks for coming to do this. This was fun.
Show. Muito melhor do que eu esperava.
Deve ter um encerramentozinho do primeiro dia.
Ixi, tá doido.
BLIZZCON Online.
BLIZZCON.
Dolby is a proud partner of BLIZZCON Online. Watch Shock vs. the World in Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, only in the Dolby Access app. Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of BLIZZCON
Coca-Cola.
Online.
Aí é só...
Mais uma propagandinha. Mas sempre acontece isso entre um e outro. E aqui no schedule tá dizendo que tem... Cadê? Perdi o schedule aqui. Aqui no schedule tá dizendo que tem wrap up de 8h30 a 8h40.
안녕하세요, 마방입니다. 전 세계에서 시청 중인 블리자드 팬 여러분, 저희가 세계적인 블리즈컨의 무대에 이렇게 찾아뵙게 돼서 정말 영광입니다. 네, 저희가
Aí pros fãs de K-pop,
보니까 주변에 친구들이 너무너무 부러워하더라고요.
eu imagino que seja K-pop.
한국에서 블리자드 인기는 정말 대단하다.
Isso, deve ser, elas vão fazer o show amanhã.
앞으로 블리자드 게임할 때 누구?
Eu tinha um amigo da faculdade que era da Coreia do Sul. Uma vez eu entrei no quarto, no dormitório dele, ele tava jogando StarCraft 2. Eu nunca vi, tipo, o dedo se mexendo tão rápido no controle, no teclado, quando ele tava assim. Eu disse, meu irmão, tu joga isso aí demais, né? Aí ele fez, na Coreia do Sul, pra você se casar com uma mulher, você tem que ganhar do pai dela em StarCraft 2.
Vai rolar um mamamu aí, pelo que eu entendi.
Aí, agora?
Tá rolando aí.
Vamos encerrar então?
Vamos. O som do K-pop nervoso.
Aí,
Não era
valeu, galera. Obrigado a todo mundo que acompanhou. A gente teve uma galera, principalmente mais cedo.
Foi. Não era assim que eu esperava que ia terminar, não, o programa, mas tudo bem.
Mas é assim, a gente acaba levando um strike do YouTube aqui de novo, mas tudo bem.
Pois é, eu vou até mutar logo esse negócio.
Se vocês curtiram, curte aí. Se inscreve e toca a sineta que a gente tá de segunda a sexta ao vivo, falando no Save Point, é o nosso programa semanal. Não. Diário.
Segunda a
diário, dias úteis só. E feriados. A gente fala as melhores notícias de jogos no dia.
Isso.
E aí segue a gente no Instagram também, @TheHardcorePixel. E é isso.
É isso aí. De hoje pra amanhã de manhã, depende da velocidade do YouTube aqui, a gente sobe o save point de hoje com as principais notícias de hoje, já que a gente fez o stream. E é isso mesmo, né, Rafa? Muito obrigado, povo, pela participação. Valeu, Rafa. 3 horas e meia de stream.
Isso.
Bom demais.
Foi muito bom. Eu tenho um pensamento pra encerrar.
Sexta! Vamos sexta!
Vocês já pensaram que se chovesse achocolatado a gente ia se molhar todinho?
Meu Deus. Valeu, povo. Bom fim de semana.
Tchau.
Valeu, Rafa.
Valeu.